61%. Chapter 161. Li Fan's Reward. In a valley with dense fog, a shining formation emerged on the ground, and the power of turbulent space surged through the valley. The force of the violent space swept up the gravel and flying sand in the valley, and it gradually subsided after a long time. The formations on the ground showed curious cultivators, which counted as many as 1,000 people. Sect leader, this is the Southern Moon Valley, right? The concentration of the fog in this place is much higher than that of the 100 Battles region where I was waiting, no wonder it's so desolate. With a handsome face and a motivated young man between his eyebrows, he looked around the surrounding environment, and then organized the affairs after arriving in the Southern Moon Valley in an orderly manner. This place is weird and chaotic, and there is also the eerie mist soul raging, although I have worn the soul calming jade, but I must not underestimate the enemy. The young man glanced at a disciple with muscular knots in front of him, and continued to order, Old Lu, take 20 disciples to explore the way and try to get in touch with the local sect cultivator. Yes, the muscular big man replied, choosing 20 calm cultivators and heading out of the valley. Seeing his disciple leave in response, the young man glanced at the system private chat prompt he received, his eyes sharp. What's the use of a group of trash gathered together? This mission rewards me Xiaofeng as the leader. After a while, his mind moved away from the three major lists of the system, and his face revealed a slight joking, Li Fan. A familiar name, even a trash has the day of turning over. The top cultivators lined up in the valley, starting with the weirdness and demonic beasts in the valley, and then portraying a simple defensive array around them. Behaving in an orderly manner, but occasionally looks like a young man with a little dignity and fear. At this time, the Kanglan Domain 100 Sect Alliance stepped into the Southern Moon Valley to rush for assistance soon. On an isolated island surrounded by water. A bird with a yellow body and a red beak hovered over the island, and it took a while before a fierce boy fell towards the dense forest below. The claws were like knives, and they stopped firmly on the shoulders of a young man. Master, the environment on the island has been explored clearly, and there is no missing inch. There are 3 demonic beasts above the Taoist realm. They should have all felt my breath, all hidden in a cave in the center of the island. Middle. Li Fan stretched out his hand and stroked the beautiful feathers on the bird that he named Xiao Huang on his shoulder. He nodded, and glanced at the more than 40 demonic beasts of different shapes and fierceness beside him at the moment, 43, and there are still 7 places short of 50, but the time delay is too long. This time to conquer the last 3 demonic beasts, it's time to rush to the Southern Moon Valley to join Ji Ning and the others. Not wasting time, Li Fan took the 43 demonic beasts who were subdued from the deep rear, following the guidance of Xiao Huang on his shoulders, toward the crypt in the middle of the island. Just arriving at the edge of the cave that Xiao Huang said, Li Fan suddenly stopped, his expression a little strange. He motioned to Xiao Huang and asked it to find the 3 demonic beasts that had been hidden, and then lowered his mind and moved his mind into his own system. The leaderboard opened so soon, it's interesting. Since Ji Ning got his order to lead hundreds of sects and more than 300,000 cultivators in the Kanglan domain to set foot on the Southern Moon Valley, he has been prompted by the system. Sect leader Li Fan dispatched 100 cultivators from the Kanglan region to the Southern Moon Valley region to help conquer the lost ground, and the system mission has been reached. The system task has been opened, and the new system feature leaderboard has been activated. As the leader of this mission, Sect leader Li Fan will receive an additional 20% mission reward after this mission is completed. Therefore, he was very clear about the series of actions of the system, and he was not surprised at all. Now that the system mission has been launched and released, Blue Star's players should also become active. It would be a good thing to have more people to fight against the weirdness with him. As for the task reward, he didn't take it seriously. It's not that he doesn't care about rewards, but if this task can be completed, then he is definitely the one that has gained the most. Compared with these players who come to the wild and wild areas for missions, he is uniquely endowed. In this battle, plus more than 300,000 powerful cultivators under his command, he can't think of anyone who can do more than him for the contribution of this mission. Therefore, his attention never stayed in the column of so-called epic missions for too long, but directly looked towards the system leaderboard. To be honest, he really wanted to see what the Blue Star players had developed into after a few months. Li Fan opened the system list, and after watching it for a while, he lost his interest. The top 3 rankings is a bit overbearing, but it doesn't matter. He closed the leaderboard interface, but his expression was a little gloomy. I didn't expect to meet an acquaintance so soon. I really look forward to seeing you. Forcibly suppressing the writhing anger, Li Fan turned his attention to his reward for winning the top 3 list this time. A dark purple pill, a hill that is countless times smaller than the system by means of mustard seed sumeru, and a light cluster exuding the spirit of worship. Congratulations to sect leader Li Fan for getting to the top of the personal power list and rewarding an 8th grade elixir of dragon and tiger pill. Congratulations to sect leader Li Fan for getting to the top of the sect ranking list and rewarding a small-time secret realm, time passing twice the speed of the outside world. Congratulations to sect leader Li Fan for ranking first on the list of weird kills, rewarding the talented blood body, natural Dao body. Before Li Fan could see what the reward was originally, his second system, the 100 times amplification system, suddenly seemed a bit urgent and disgusting. Ding! Congratulations to sect leader for gaining a 100-fold increase and obtaining a 6th rank elixir of 9 Song Qingling pills. Ding! Congratulations to sect leader for gaining a 100-fold increase and obtaining a secret realm for Tai time. Ding! Congratulations to sect leader for gaining a 100-fold increase and obtaining a copy of Tiangong supernatural powers. Li Fan hastened to look at the rewards after being increased by a 100-fold. The first 2 items are not bad. They have a strong increase in the quality of medicine pill and secret realm. Ascension. But when the last reward was increased, Li Fan was a little surprised. Since he first bound the 100-fold amplification system, the rewards of the increase were the things he had originally obtained, either the amount of increase or the quality of the ascension items. But this was the first time that one item was completely replaced with another item. This made him a little bewildered for a while. The talented bloodline body that just got in hand, the seemingly tyrannical natural Dao body, directly turned into a green smoke and disappeared without a trace. In a blink of an eye, he saw a thin jade-like book lying quietly in his backpack. Li Fan didn't care about the 3 hidden demonic beasts, Xiaohuang, who had been driven out like little chickens in the cave. He took the jade book out of his backpack, and opened it with a dignified expression. Seeing the text on it, Li Fan's eyes widened and his complexion changed. This, 62%. Chapter 162. Open the jade book that is mundane and introverted. The text on the first page was scattered on the page, which deeply attracted Li Fan's gaze. And the 9 ancient characters with 7 dragons flying and phoenix dancing are impressively written on it at the beginning. 36 Tiangong magical powers. 36 Tiangong. This is. For a while, the memories on the blue star flooded in Li Fan's heart. To talk about the changes in the 36 days, Li Fan's first thought was the things in Journey to the West. There is no way, this thing is too famous. Especially the TV series that were made back then can be said to have grown up with generations of people. It's an extremely colorful story that everyone can't get around. If you say that you haven't seen the Red Mansion, the Water Margin, or the 3 Kingdoms, it's possible. But if you say that you haven't watched Journey to the West, that's really a joke. It is estimated that most people can tell a lot of things with their eyes closed, and they are familiar with it. Among them, 36 changes of heaven and 72 changes of earth evil are also very famous among them. But this thing was not originally from the book Journey to the West, but from the Tongjian of Ancient Gods and Immortals, which is a magical magic in ancient Taoism and folklore. Li Fan looked at the jade book in his hand carefully, but found that the jade book of the 36 Heavenly Gang magical powers was slightly different from what he knew. For example, the technique recorded on it is not a trick of changing a chicken, a dog, a bird, a house, etc., but a powerful variety of magical powers. It's like good fortune, reversing yin and yang, moving stars and changing battles, returning to the sky and returning to the moon. Li Fan turned down with a look of excitement. The first page was the 4 characters good fortune. To mediate the world, Shuang can be good fortune, to live out of nothing, to live by death, is to mediate good fortune. It is a pity that except for a brief introduction, the content below is completely blank. Li Fan felt uncomfortable, and flipped the pages of the book in his hand quickly, until the next 2 pages were full of text. The difference is the 2 magical powers that he has mastered, the 5 Thunder and Qianyuan Shuji. Only the 2 magical powers that he has fully mastered are recorded in quite detail, and the tricks of cultivation and the determination of the law are all available. And the remaining 34 kinds of supernatural powers are all blank pages. I don't know if you don't have it, you only have if I know you, what about this TM cheating? Li Fan couldn't help but vomit. Originally seeing the familiar words, 36 Tiangong, his heart was full of excitement and joy. But after going through the whole book, there was nothing useful. He only felt a violent heartache. The talented blood body is gone, and it has become such an encyclopedia that introduces the 36 heavens. Who is not numb? Li Fan didn't swear, he was already very strong. Just when Li Fan wanted to put away this useless shattered book, this jade book suddenly appeared in a vague light, covering Li Fan's body. And the two magical powers in Li Fan's body, grasping the five thunders and Qianyuan, shrank as if they had seen their relatives. They cheered and leapt for joy. The two magical powers operated on their own, and a trace of breath was uploaded from Li Fan and gathered in the jade book. Gradually, like the jade book of Jasper Jade, it was almost transparent, and the position of the book cover revealed dense lines, and the lines in the lines kept flashing like stars. Li Fan took a closer look. At first, he didn't figure out what the line on the cover of the book was, but he slowly pondered it and found that something was wrong. The line next to the star looks a bit familiar. After a while, Li Fan raised his brows. This is the map of the cave near the Jinlingzong. With this thought in mind, Li Fan carefully recalled the terrain mountain range near the Jinlingzong and contrasted with it. Slowly, a touch of lines on this jade book gradually coincided with the place where he had acquired the magical power of Qianyuan shrinking ground in his impression. Sure enough, Li Fan sighed and beamed his eyebrows. If this is the case, besides these light spots, are the places where these 36 heavenly powers are actually located. This is a map that records 36 celestial powers. Ever since he mastered the five thunder supernatural powers, relied on this supernatural power to overcome many thorns, through many disasters and kill many enemies, he began to collect more supernatural powers. If he can master more tyrannical magical powers, he can't go anywhere in this world. Realm is his body, and magical powers are his feathers. Supernatural powers are feathers, and Wanfa wears clothes. If he can fully grasp all supernatural powers, he can also be considered to have some self-protection power in this world. It's a pity that he didn't find any news about supernatural powers in the system, and even in the Starry Sky Palace that seemed to contain nothing, Li Fan didn't find any supernatural powers. There is no way to exchange massive heavenly Dao merits. In desperation, Li Fan had to press his own mind into his heart. And now, he suddenly realized that the opportunity was once again before his eyes. It's too coincidental. And this time the 100-fold amplification system is indeed too abnormal. It's as if he doesn't want him to integrate some talented blood body. Li Fan glanced at the merit points on his body, and had an idea. Now there are more than 60,000 merit points left on his body, which is not enough. When the merit is more, he can choose to exchange for a kind of talent bloodline. Actually, try to see if there will be any other actions with this 100-fold amplification system. Putting away the jade book precious and important, Li Fan looked at two other awards. Tai Time Secret Realm. The 6th rank elixir. 9 Ku Ching Ling Pill. Looking at the system introduction, Li Fan understood the function of these two things. Tai Time Secret Realm. This secret realm is a time secret realm. In simple terms, it is a place of practice with a different flow velocity from the outside space. If the time in the Tai Time Secret Realm has passed 10 days, and the outside world is only 1 day, if you enter it, you can save a lot of time. It is exactly what Li Fan needs. His current Qian Yuanzong has just recruited a group of new beginner disciples. These people's practice time is too short to help them. And this Tai Time Secret Realm can make up for what these disciples are most lacking at present, and that is time. Looking at the secret realm in the backpack, Li Fan had plans. When all the 3 demonic beasts in this place were taken over, his preparations were almost complete. At that time, you can go back to Qianyuanzong first, place the secret realm in Sect, and set the rules for the disciples in the door to enter the practice. If you want to enter it, you can use Sect contribution points to exchange for it. With a plan in his mind, Li Fan no longer looked at this secret realm, but looked at the 9 green spirit pills in his hand. The 6th rank elixir of 9 Ku Chingling pill. Although this pill has a single effect, it is really powerful. 62%. Chapter 163. Looking at the introduction of the system, Li Fan said in his heart. This medicine pill is not like the medicine pill used by ordinary Taoist cultivators to assist in practice. For example, the medicine pill, which can usually help Tao realm cultivator practice, does not contain too much spirit power. After all, realm in Tao realm is completely different from martial realm. Although the cultivator of realm, spiritual qi is equally important to them, it is not the main key. Compared with it, what is more important is the perception of the way one has cultivated. Therefore, the medicine pill, which the Taoist cultivator usually uses to assist in practice, may not contain a trace of spirit power, but it must have Taoist rhyme, which can help them feel their own Tao. The deeper their understanding of Tao, their realm will also ascension. Until the end, the Taoist cultivator can even blend Tao with the body. I am Tao and Tao is me. One thought can invoke the power of heaven and earth. And in this 9-tune blue spirit pill, there is no trace of Tao rhyme, a bit of pure to the extreme, majestic and endless pure spirit power. This medicine pill suits me well. Having determined the role of the 9-tune blue spirit pill, Li Fan thought for a while and first took out a talisman and held it in his hand. Then he swallowed the Juku Qingling pill without hesitation. This pill should be able to satisfy the spirit power I need to step into the 9th floor of the foundation building. Li Fan thought. The majestic spirit power erupted from Li Fan Dantian, and then filled his limbs. The realm of the foundation building is the realm that accumulates the foundation. In this realm, Li Fan needs a very long time to cultivate and absorb the spiritual qi from the heavens and the earth, and then transform it into pure spirit power, which is absorbed into the body to expand the true essence of the body. At this time, the Juku Qingling pill is full of pure spirit power that has been refined several times. After Li Fan swallows the medicine pill, he no longer needs to continue to refine and transform, but directly absorb it. This endless pure spirit power saves Li Fan's countless water-milling efforts. At this moment, he is like a sponge in the sea, greedily absorbing the nutrients around him. Soon, Li Fan's realm began to loosen up, with the 6th floor of the foundation building, the 7th floor of the foundation building, the 8th floor of the foundation building, and the 9th floor of the foundation building. In the end, this 9-tune blue spirit pill directly pushed Li Fan's realm to the peak of the 9th floor of the foundation building, but even after helping Li Fan to cross the 4 small realms in one breath, the spirit power contained in this 9-tune blue spirit pill it is worth less than 1/3 of the consumption. The 6th rank elixir in Li Fan's body was only reduced in size, and was not completely refined by him at all. At this time, the spirit power in Li Fan's body was filled to the extreme. Dantian had absorbed too much pure spirit power, but the capacity remained the same. Now the whole Dantian seemed to be torn in pain and uncomfortable. However, his realm is stuck to death, unable to move any minute, and the only way to solve the problem of excessive spirit power in his body is to continue to condense the sturdy essence in his body like an adult fist, and turn it into liquid. It is solid and condenses into a flawless gold core. Step into the gold core realm in one fell swoop. Now he has met all his own conditions for entering the gold core realm. As long as he wants to, he can immediately rely on his own solid foundation to forcibly guide the true essence in his body to start the golden core. Once the elixir was established, he would be able to absorb all the majestic spirit power of the Juku Qingling pill that was raging in his body. With the powerful effect of the Juku Qingling pill, the Li Fan of the Emperor could not step into the 9 levels of gold core in one fell swoop. Problem. But in this way, he can only achieve the most common and ordinary gold core, and the extremely hot place he has found is useless. On one side, it became a pill immediately, and then stepped into the gold core 9th stage. However, he gave up the golden core method, and gave up his natural talent to inspire himself. After achieving the most inferior gold core, it may be difficult for him to climb to a higher realm from then on. On the other hand, it is to tolerate the continuous impact of spirit power in the body and try to guide the spirit power of the 9 Ku Qingling pills out of the body, but this method has a very low success rate and may even ruin the foundation. Turned into a waste. The Juku Qingling pill continued to release its majestic spirit power. Li Fan's face was wrinkled, and the robe behind him was wet with cold sweat. I didn't expect that so many fierce demonic beasts and strange weirdness couldn't do anything to me. In the end, it was a small pill that made me fall into such a crisis. It's really ironic. Li Fan sighed lightly. He clenched his teeth and trembled all over. Seeing Li Fan's face pale, sweaty, and trembling all over, Xiao Huang didn't know what was going on. His eyes were fixed on Li Fan, a little impatient, but he didn't dare to bother rashly. Although it was cleaned up by Li Fan a few days ago, it was finally forced to sign a contract to recognize it as the master. But Li Fan also gave it a new lease of life, helped it get rid of the control of the Saint Monster, and made its strength to the next level. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a gift of re-engineering, and according to its chat with Li Fan, it knows that Li Fan has complied with its agreement. This contract is only a short period of 10 years. So after it signed the contract, not only did it not resent Li Fan at all, but it was a little grateful instead. Seeing Li Fan like this now, his heart is even more anxious, and he can walk back and forth with his feet on the spot. The 3 demonic beasts that were caught from the crypt next to him were so frightened that they dared not raise their heads when they saw its impetuous and fierce appearance, for fear that in case Xiao Huang sees them unpleasantly, he will swallow them again. How to choose life and death. This is an extremely simple multiple choice question. If you stay in the Green Hills, you are not afraid that there will be no firewood, and the ants still know how to make a living, let alone human beings. Moreover, even if Li Fan is forced to become a low-grade gold core at this moment, with the 2 systems on his body, he may not have no chance to find a remedy in the future, although the chance may be very slim. And even if he can't move to a higher realm in the future, he can't reach the transcends tribulation realm, let alone immortal ascension. In this star realm, with his own strength, he can live unrestrainedly. But this is not what he wants. Coming to this strange otherworld alone, Li Fan didn't actually feel that life had changed too much. After all, he had been alone for 10 years before coming here, and it made no difference to him in any world. And the reason why he struggled to survive after coming to this world, wanting to step-by-step ascension own strength, on the one hand, is to live in the hatred in his heart, on the other hand, is the yearning for the realm of the fairy in his dreams. Let him decide his future at this moment, he can't do it. Fortunately, before swallowing the 9 songs of blue spirit pill, Li Fan still had a backhand, but by doing so, he might not be able to rush to the southern Moon Valley to preside over the overall situation of the 100 Sects Alliance in a short time. My leader is really incompetent. Li Fan laughed at himself in his heart. The spirit power in his body was getting more and more violent right now, and he had to make a decision immediately, and he couldn't allow him to waste time anymore. Li Fan picked up the cyan talisman in his hand, activated it with his true essence, and stuck it on Dantian's place. 62%. Chapter 164 Preparation of Golden Core. The cyan talisman was unremarkable, without a trace of spirit power flashing, but as soon as the talisman touched Li Fan's body, the manic and majestic spirit power in Li Fan's body immediately became calm. Even the one in Li Fan's body hadn't melted away, and the Juku Qingling pill, which was spinning around and around, also converged, and the spirit power in it no longer leaked a bit. Feeling the spirit power calming down in his body, Li Fan exhaled. He was only thinking about using this 9-tune blue spirit pill to quickly ascension realm to deal with the sacred monsters hidden in the Kanglan domain, but he never expected that because of his impatience, he almost worked hard to destroy it. Once. Fortunately, before swallowing this medicine pill, I left a handful of preparations and exchanged 3,000 merits for a 4th-rank talisman named 9 Cauldrons Town Spirit Talisman, so as not to force the end of Golden Core. Li Fan felt his lower body turned into a rock, completely unable to mobilize the true essence, looked down at the cyan talisman 3 inches below his umbilicus, a little helpless. 4th-rank Magic Talisman. 9 Cauldrons Town Magic Talisman. Zhen Ling, Shu Yuan, activated to suppress spirit power in the cultivator. This magic talisman can completely suppress the spirit power in a cultivator, making it impossible to use the spirit power in the body. It was originally a magic talisman used to trap the enemy, but now it is used by Li Fan to suppress the riots in the body. It is actually a method. Although his own crisis was temporarily relieved, Li Fan's face was still a little ugly. After using this talisman, Li Fan can't use his true essence at all. He who can use his physical power can say that his strength has gone 7 or 8, so he can only deal with the ordinary innate realm cultivator. As a result, now he naturally can't take the subdued demonic beasts right away to fight the holy monsters hidden in the Kanglan region waiting for an opportunity. But keeping such threats is not a solution. Li Fan decided to bring a part of demonic beasts to stay. On the one hand, he quickly went to the extreme fire land to use the Golden Core method, and waited for the pill to resolve the worries of the 100 Sect Alliance. On the other hand, some demonic beasts rushed to the southern Moon Valley to support Ji Ning and them. After learning from Xiao Huang's mouth that those Holy Clan weird arrangements were secretly arranged in the Kanglan region, he felt that the turmoil in the southern Moon Valley region would definitely not be that simple. If there are some powerful monsters hiding in the dark, Ji Ning and the others may not be able to cope. Li Fan looked at the demonic beasts who had soared in strength after he had signed a contract with the Pavilion of 10,000 Beasts. After thinking about it carefully, I feel that if these demonic beasts, who are on average in the spiritual light realm, protect Ji Ning and the others, there shouldn't be any problems. Li Fan took out the Jade Talisman and told Ji Ning that he could not go to the southern Moon Valley for the time being. He wanted to stay in the Kanglan region to heal and solve the monsters of the Kanglan region Saint clan. He told Ji Ning to calm down the sects and the alliance leaders' emotions. At the same time, 25 demonic beasts with the strength of the Aura realm were to be sent to support the southern Moon Valley region to support them. Ji Ning was also told. Ji Ning was a little disappointed when he heard that Li Fan could not come to the southern Moon Valley for the time being. Although from the first day of the present, after the 300,000 cultivator of Kanglan region and the more than 200,000 elite cultivators of southern Moon Valley are reunited, it will not be a problem to deal with the weird army in front of them. The first tentative confrontation between the two parties ended with the cultivator army winning a complete victory and beheading tens of thousands of weirdness. But without this seemingly omnipotent leader by his side, he always felt a little uneasy. Fortunately, Li Fan suddenly mentioned that he would send 25 demonic beasts with the strength of the third realm of the realm of spiritual light to support them, and Ji Ning's heart was relieved. Ji Ning, who was discussing war with the sect leaders in a wide room, sighed while looking at the jade talisman in his hand. I really don't know how the leader did it. What kind of beast control method is so powerful, and he can easily subdue and cultivate so many demonic beasts? Realm is much higher than me. This method is simply not human. However, since it was good news, Ji Ning no longer struggled. After a few words, he explained what Li Fan had told him in an orderly manner. He quickly explained to the sect leaders in the room what Li Fan couldn't come temporarily. However, the content of the words has been slightly modified. He didn't tell Li Fan that part of Li Fan was left in the Kanglan domain because of personal affairs and injuries, so he couldn't rush over. It's just that after Li Fan and him met those ambushes in the land of extreme flames, in order to clear the hidden threats in the Kanglan region and solve the worries of the hundreds of cultivators in the Kanglan region, they had to stay alone to face the horror. Saint monsters. Because before he rushed to the southern Moon Valley, he gave the photo mirror Li Fan gave him to everyone to see, and everyone knew what was going on. So after Ji Ning explained that Li Fan could not come to the southern Moon Valley for the time being, everyone didn't have any questions or complaints. Instead, they all sighed, the leader of Li is righteous. Ji Ning informed Li Fan of the form of the place, not leaking any drips he handled at this time. After learning that everything was in order, Li Fan put away the transmission jade, and first conquered the 3 demonic beasts who were familiar with the road and shrank into a ball, and heard 3 familiar system prompts. Li Fan looked at the 3 demonic beasts whose strength increased sharply in front of him, and the strength ascension reached the level of the spiritual light realm, and nodded. After sending the 25 demonic beasts beside him with the 1,000 miles shuttle talisman, Li Fan took the remaining 20 demonic beasts and Xiao Huang on his shoulders and left here, and started preparing for the golden core. Regarding the 3 golden core methods of golden core, Li Fan has made a decision long ago. For him, he only plans to use the golden core method, and the place of golden core has already been prepared. It's the fierce and dangerous place. Although the location has been found, he has not had time to prepare the auxiliary 100 elixir. Among the large amount of spiritual plants and medicines stored in the clan, there are only more than 20 kinds of things he needs, and the remaining more than 70 kinds of auxiliary medicines and the most important 3 main medicines have not yet been found. However, Li Fan was not too worried. It must be too late to find it slowly, but as long as the merits are enough, he can go directly to the Star Palace to exchange it. Looking at his remaining Heavenly Dao merit points, Li Fan calculated in his heart, if you want to make up the remaining 70 or so needed elixir, it would be more than 60,000 merit points. Fortunately, it's not too difficult. Go back to Qian Yuanzong and take out a part of the Lunar Gathering Monster Core, and let the demonic beasts under your hand bring the Lunar Gathering Monster Core around to find some weird kills. 2 or 3 days should be almost enough. NS. Quote. Soon, Li Fan, who returned to Kirin City, activated the teleportation formation that remained in the city, and returned to Qian Yuanzong in a flash. Nodded to the more than 2,000 new disciples who had come to Sect in the Sect, and after a few words of encouragement, Li Fan first took out the 20-odd elixir and all the 3,000 stored in Qianyuan Sect. A number of lunar months gathered in Monster Core, and then the secret realm in the backpack was placed in the deepest part of Sect. I told the 10 old disciples who stayed behind in Sect how to use the secret realm and how many Sect contribution points are needed to enter it. The 10 old disciples immediately knew what to do. Li Fan didn't need to bother about the rest. With the help of the secret realm, he just had to wait for these disciples to grow up as soon as possible. According to his estimation, after 3 months, at least 90% of the 2,000 disciples will be able to reach the realm of the Aperture Realm. Even if there is someone who is willing to work hard, the Xingxing talent is good enough to pass his inspection. He will also consider letting them follow the same path as Renguan and Hengqing. After everything was set up, Li Fan left Qian Yuanzong with the demonic beasts around him and walked into the mist, gradually disappearing. 63%. Chapter 165. 100,000 players gather in southern Moon Valley. Time flies. 5 days later. On a plain at the edge of the southern Moon Valley, densely packed cultivators huddled together, and in front of them were tens of thousands of weird and demonic beasts' corpses. The scene looked a little bloody, and at first glance, it was known that a fierce battle had just gone through. Standing in front of the cultivator is a team of more than 200 people. Foremost among them is a big beard about 40 years old, with a square face covered with black hair almost covering the eyes, nose, and mouth, just like a yaksha. At this moment, the man who looked fierce and vicious, looked at the numerous cultivators around him like a black cloud, and touched his bright head. A few days ago, he contacted more than 200 players in the top 100 of the 3 lists, intending to explore the southern Moon Valley together to complete the task. But who knows that someone privately revealed the news in the meeting place. When I heard that these high-end players would join forces to carry out system missions in the southern Moon Valley. How could this opportunity be missed? So many cultivators who have the ability to come to the wild and wild land came to the meeting place set by Mei Hu, and they just got together with Mei Hu and others. Some of these players came alone, and some of them were estimated to have mastered a teleportation formation and brought many of their disciples. Looking at Wuyongyang, there were more than 100,000 people. The small team of more than 200 people formed by Mei Hu didn't want to offend the public when seeing the posture of this group of people. Since these people are willing to follow along, they just don't care. Just thinking about finding a time to get rid of these troubles. Mei Hu and others walked carefully in front, and these players who came to join in the fun just followed Mei Hu and others beggingly, and settled on the idea of holding thighs. It didn't take long for Mei Hu and the players to suddenly encounter a large number of strange attacks. Thousands of zombies weird brought tens of thousands of controlled demonic beasts, and they fought fiercely with the player army. Thanks to the large number of people, the players joined forces with Mei Hu's team and quickly beheaded all these weird and demonic beasts, with almost no casualties. Looking at the mess in front of them, everyone in the Mei Hu team felt fearful for a while. After they came to the southern Moon Valley, they knew that the danger here was great and they were very careful all the way. The team also specializes in divine sense sensitive people, who are responsible for detecting danger around the team. But even so, they didn't notice a large number of enemies suddenly appearing in this particularly thick fog. From this, it is enough to see that the weird people in the southern Moon Valley region are in this dense fog. It can be said that they are even more powerful, and people are overwhelmed by it. Fortunately, they followed a large number of player teams behind them. Even if tens of thousands of enemies suddenly attacked them, there would be no resistance. If they really got rid of the people behind them at that time, now their 200 people face tens of thousands of enemies alone, not to mention that the entire army is destroyed. At least the damage is severe, and it's hard to say how much they can escape. After this unprepared battle, the small team of Mei Hu and others can be regarded as completely accepting the many following players behind him. Mei Hu, I feel that the weirdness of the southern Moon Valley is not so good, and the strength is about the same as ours. Yes, among the thousands of weirds just now, they were basically all weird for raising the dirty realm's strength, and I didn't even see any of them with the ability of the clear aperture and the strength realm. I thought that the turbulent area was particularly dangerous. As a result, these weirdnesses were not terrible except for their larger numbers. As long as they were not too far from their numbers, they were not worth mentioning. Quote. After a big victory, the players have their own judgment on the degree of danger here, and basically they are not too worried. Mei Hu habitually touched his bright head, and said seriously, we have just arrived in the southern Moon Valley and are not familiar with this area. You still can't take it lightly. It's not a big mistake to be careful. The few talking players nodded tacitly. They also knew what was going on, so naturally they would not take it lightly just because of a simple battle. What I said just now was to ease the anxiety that everyone felt when they came to an unfamiliar area. On the other hand, it is closer to Mei Hu. In the battle just now, although it was mainly because they had gathered a large number of players, accidentally, to dominate, they easily defeated these weirdness. But in the actual battle, they could see very clearly that when the weird leader demonic beast suddenly appeared, these stragglers, although they were crowded, were generally not high in strength. Most of them were in the dirty state, and some of them belonged to the players in the blood-changing state. The disciples are indiscriminately filling the numbers. In addition, the hearts of the people are also uneven, and there is no establishment at all when fighting. Everyone was headed individually, and many of the disciples who were brought out by each player for the first time were panicked, and the spells in their hands were all unfavorable. The lethality is extremely limited. But the small team of Mayhu and other hot people, because of their good strengths and the default backbone of Mayhu, they are more proficient in fighting and cooperate, which played a great role in the battle just now. It can be said that the two parties rely on each other to complement each other. The team of Mayhu and others need a lot of cannon fodder to help them share the pressure. And their players also need the leadership of Mayhu and other masters to form a group to make up for the lack of high-end combat power. Therefore, after this short battle, everyone tacitly formed a huge team. In the midway, the team of more than 100,000 cultivators just formed encountered several strange attacks that suddenly appeared. Although they still caused some casualties, they also killed and injured more than 100 disciples who were too weak. It can be said that the casualties are very small. After several battles, Mayhu and others get along with the player army more and more harmoniously. The players who stumbled and explored the periphery of the southern Moon Valley for a day are sitting on the ground in an empty canyon, and the bonfire around here is roasting the meat of the demonic beasts just killed, filling their empty stomachs. Originally, Mayhu saw that everyone was planning to start a fire, and wanted to prevent it from being too conspicuous to cause weirdness, but after thinking about it, no matter how careful they were, there was no shortage of battle that day. I just gave it up, just dropped a cautionary order, and sat next to his team. By the fire, Zhang Luci's face was flat, looking at Mayhu, who came back to sit down and said, "Mayhu Sect leader, we have been wandering around the edge of the southern Moon Valley for a day. What are your plans tomorrow?" Leaders such as Sen Hisong, Shang Xing, and Zheng Gong beside Zhang Luci also looked at Mayhu. After a day of getting along, they can be considered to have recognized the scary middle-aged man in front of him with a bold face. Although Mayhu is relatively bold and unrestrained, his behavior and marching arrangements are relatively delicate and cautious. At this moment, everyone also acquiesced in the dominant position of Mayhu in the team. Since Mayhu wants to be the leader of this team, they have nothing to say, it is nothing to do, as long as they don't influence them to complete the task and get rewards. 63%. Chapter 166. Jining, who refused to send troops. Mayhu touched his head and said in a deep voice, "After this day of observation, everyone should have also discovered that the southern Moon Valley region has a higher number of weirdness and frequency of occurrence than the places where we are located because of the increase in the concentration of fog. Too much out. The danger is still not small." Quote. Everyone nodded. Mayhu continued, "Fortunately, we have a large number of players here with us this time. With their help, it is not too much of a problem to deal with the weird increase in numbers. This is also a surprise. The source of the dramatic increase in the concentration of the fog here is in the Nagunan Mountains. During this trip, we must strive to destroy this place in order to complete the task and get rewards. So starting tomorrow, we can head towards the core area in the southern Moon Valley." Quote. Okay. After hearing Mayhu's plan, everyone thought about it carefully. The reason why they traveled all the way to this perilous southern Moon Valley this time is because of the epic mission issued by the system. According to the explanation of the system's mission, they must help the entire turbulent region to calm the weird turmoil, erase the weird people who occupy a large amount of space, and regain the lost region to complete the task. They are not there in other regions, so they can't control it. Everyone is thinking about it. As long as they can complete the task in this place, they will definitely get no less rewards. Therefore, their main goal is to have the Kanglan region rush to support the overall strength of the southern Moon Valley region. And if you want to regain the lost ground, you must suppress these chaotic weirdness, at least kill a lot of things to have a chance to complete this goal. However, the southern Moon Valley region was destroyed by the Weirs because of the power of suppressing the fog and the weird boundary, and those weirdness have established a mist soul array here that can continuously generate mist souls and increase the concentration of the mist here. This has led to a continuous breeding of a lot of weirdness in the fog, making them tired of dealing with it and unable to kill them. Therefore, in order to regain the Moon Valley region where the South was in crisis and almost fell, the most important step is to break the fog and soul array at the source. Restore the fog here to normal levels so that these weirdness can no longer spawn unrestricted. This is the most important step and the first step to complete the task, if they can break the mist soul array. I believe that when the system tasks are settled, their contribution value will be the highest, and the harvest will be extremely rich. According to the local player in the Southern Moon Valley on the System World Chat interface, the Kanglan Region Army and the Southern Moon Valley Cultivator have joined together to encircle and suppress a large number of weirdness in this place. Now the main target of the weirdness here is the army of 600,000 cultivators. In this way, now is their best opportunity to act, and this opportunity should not be missed. You should know that the cultivator army of the two domains should have also noticed these weird inexhaustible problems, and they probably also reacted to the direction of the fog and soul formation at the core of the weird army. If those indigenous cultivators take the lead and destroy the mist soul array, their mission contribution value will definitely drop to an extremely low state. And, smelling the bloody smell of the Southern Moon Valley, is it really only their 100,000 players who came here? Everyone is skeptical about this. If that's the case, then it's decided. We will set off tomorrow and aim for the fog soul array. Mayhu saw that the people around him had no doubts, and he said the matter was settled. Yes, sect leader Yan is right. We must destroy the mist soul array as soon as possible. In the great hall of the sect of the Shuiyan Palace in the Southern Moon Valley, an old man said firmly. Sect leader, we are gaining momentum right now. Since we arrived in the Southern Moon Valley, we have been in a dozen or so battles with the weird army. These weird forces have been defeated steadily. These weird strengths are nothing more than that. Now is the best time to destroy the foundation of the enemy in one fell swoop. Another middle-aged man in Great Hall said excitedly. The sect leader, the various forces sent by the Southern Moon Valley region in the temple, to participate in the combat meeting, heard the middle-aged man's words, and his face was a bit embarrassing. There seems to be nothing wrong with this, and it is also true. Indeed, since the aid of the 320,000 cultivator from the Kanglan domain, they have stabilized the situation at once, and the line of defense is not retreating. But if you want to talk about recognition, it seems that their cultivators in the Southern Moon Valley are extremely incompetent. We must know that although they have suffered heavy losses in the Southern Moon Valley, there are more than 300,000 cultivators that can participate in the battle, and their strength is faintly higher than the cultivators in the Kanglan region. They felt helpless when they thought of this. Why did they retreat steadily when fighting these weird and weird mist souls when they were fighting against these weird and weird mist souls? These cultivators in the Kanglan region turned around once the battle came. Could it be that these weirdness are really inadequate, and they are already vulnerable? They didn't want to understand, but the cultivator of Kanglan domain also came to help them, so they naturally couldn't refute it casually. People under the eaves have to bow their heads. At this time, Ji Ning was sitting on the chair with hesitation on his face. Upon seeing this, all the sect leaders in the hall were puzzled. In the dozen or so battles with all-out efforts these days, they have killed a lot of weirdness, and because of Li Fan's instructions, they, including their disciples, all carry runes or magical items that can protect the spirit from being disturbed. Those cultivators who were harassed by the mist souls in each domain at the beginning are not too worried about those mist souls at this moment. With a restrained method, you can't rely on it accidentally and the cultivator's ignorance of it, and these treacherous creatures can't cause trouble to them. At this moment, only the real and endless weird people are the biggest obstacle to the cultivator to smooth the chaos. Therefore, now is the best time for a decisive battle. Although every battle between them and the weird army is a vigorous victory, the damage of the cultivators is inevitable. It is impossible to fight without death. But those weird people can continue to breed with the help of the misty geography, and their flesh and blood cultivator can't do it. They can't afford it. Ji Ning, who was hesitating at this moment, made everyone in the hall very confused. But no way, who made him the deputy leader appointed by Li Fan? The sect leaders in the Great Hall stared at Ji Ning with puzzled and anxious eyes. Just waiting for Ji Ning to give them an answer. At this moment, a young cultivator standing beside Ji Ning first saluted the sect leaders in the hall and then said, "Seniors," the kid once again said sorry to you seniors. The kids are young, so I shouldn't have interrupted, but watching the tangled expression of Ji Ning's sect leader and the anxious mood of everyone, it is also uncomfortable. Quote. When everyone in the hall heard the sound, they turned their eyes to the young cultivator. After seeing his appearance, the people who were a bit displeased didn't say much. Instead, he beckoned him to continue talking in a friendly manner. Rengguan received a signal from the sect leader of the hall, and continued calmly, Sect leader Ji has been reluctant to order a decisive battle to attack the strange stronghold and destroy the foggy soul formation. This is actually the order of my sect leader. Hearing this, Ji Ning sighed. And everyone in the hall also showed surprise, and a doubtful voice sounded in the hall, what does the leader mean? Ren Guan nodded, yes. 63%. Chapter 167 unanimously, target Gunnan Mountain Range. Responsible nodded. Yes, that's what my sect leader means. When everyone in the hall heard Ren Guan's words, their faces were incomprehensible. Why did the leader prevent me from waiting to send troops? Now is the best time to quell the unrest in the southern Moon Valley. Someone in the 100 Sect Alliance asked. Everyone looked at Ren Guan, waiting for him to give a reason. Ji Ning glanced at Ren Guan and raised his hand to stop him from wanting to continue speaking. I will explain the rest to sect leaders. Ren Guan nodded, stepped aside and stopped talking. Originally, he just made a statement just now, in order to tell Ji Ning what he can say about his sect leader. Now that Ji Ning understands, he naturally doesn't need to say any more. Ji Ning's expression was a bit serious, and she said, do you still remember the fact that I went to the extreme fire land with Leader Li the other day? Everyone nodded, indicating that they remembered. Then everyone should know what exactly happened to Meng Li and I. In the land of extreme flames, my leader and I learned from the mouth of the Fei snake bird that was subdued by the leader, that there is an extremely strange group of strangers hidden in the Kanglan region. 30 monsters of the saint race above the realm, 500 demonic beasts who were made into puppets by hearing the power of the realm, and more than 10,000 fog souls. There is also the most terrifying, unfathomable strength, and even the Fei snake bird in the spiritual light realm is easily subdued by a saint monster leader. Quote. Jinning, sect leader, I will know what you said. Didn't you say that the leader is in the Kanglan region to deal with these things? The man who spoke looked at the 25 auras guarding outside the temple. The demonic beasts continued. There are many masters around the leader, plus the leader himself. To deal with those weird strengths that are only below the third layer of the Tao realm, shouldn't be a problem. Ji Ning nodded. That's right, since the leader said that he wants to get rid of those monsters, he naturally has his certainty. But everyone, don't forget, the monster leader of the most powerful saint race has never missed his face. Even the Fei snake bird does not know its movements. The leader is worried that it is hiding in this southern Moon Valley, waiting to give us a fatal blow. Quote. After Ji Ning finished speaking, everyone in the hall fell silent. Ji Ning's words really have some truth. Such a scheming guy who is so conspicuous is enough to make everyone take it seriously. In particular, it has never even shown its face. The so-called unknown enemy is the most terrifying. That powerful monster is like a deadly poisonous snake, always waiting to give them a fatal blow to this group of cultivators. Such an existence, not showing up, is more deterrent than appearing on the battlefield with real swords and guns. This is exactly what Li Fan worries about. After a while, in the great hall that had been silent for a while, one of the people in the southern Moon Valley hesitated for a while, and then said, G-Sect leader, what the leader of your region is really reasonable, but just so easily give up such a good opportunity, there are still some stop eating because of choking. As the density of the fog on the southern Moon Valley became higher and higher, the number of those weirdness kept increasing. If you don't take advantage of our strength to suppress these weirdness, and destroy the foggy soul formation at the source, I am afraid that. Quote. His words represent another level of worry in many people's hearts, and now waiting for the powerful saint monster to take the initiative to show up, it is too passive. However, the weirdness is endless, and when one is changing and the other is growing, when the 600,000 cultivator army united by the southern Moon Valley and Kanglan regions is unable to suppress it, then it will be exhausted. Everyone was full of worries, and both Li Fan's words and the words of the cultivator in the southern Moon Valley made sense. The current situation is that they are already in a dilemma. The discussion in the hall became louder and louder, advocating that even if you have to take some risks, you must complete your work and send troops immediately. Some are more conservative and advocate waiting for the weird appearance and Li Fan to return before sending troops. There are both, and they are equally in number. Seeing that the two sides were red-faced in the fight, what they said made sense. Ji Ning stood up and said, Dear sect leaders, I understand everyone's meaning, but this matter still has to be ordered by the leader. As for the news sent back from the leader, it will take no more than half a month for the leader to eliminate all the monsters on the Kanglan region, and he will rush over immediately. During the introduction, no matter what abacus the monster played, I would send troops to launch a decisive battle. Quote. In half a month, can we wait? Can those weirdness wait? A sturdy, 9-foot-long man in the hall, the master of Fire Cloud Valley, Chu Yi said. Many people in the hall who advocate sending troops immediately stood up and said, yes, Chu Yi sect leader is right. No matter how strong the monster is, its power is on the side of Kanglan region, and there is a leader there. While restraining it, what kind of waves can it make by itself? If it is so strong that I can't match the 600,000 cultivator, how could it still shrink so much, hiding in the corner and not daring to show up? Quote. That is, I think I should wait for a decisive battle against the weird, destroying their core stronghold, Fog Soul Array in one fell swoop. If the monster behind the scenes really dares to appear, I will wait for the army to unite and let him go. As soon as this statement came out, everyone in the main battle responded, yes, will I wait for the 600,000 army to be afraid of a monster in that mirror? A joke, whether it is the third or fourth level of the Taoist realm, I will wait. Together, he will surely let him come back and forth. Ren Guan looked at the boiling people in the hall, his eyelids closed slightly, and he didn't say a word, as if he was indifferent to these things. Jining touched the Lingyu fingers in his hand, and grinned his teeth in anguish. Since coming to this southern Moon Valley, Li Fan has not shown up. There is no leader in their hundreds of alliances. If the wind goes smoothly in normal times, it would be okay to have any problems and differences immediately appear. This shit meeting can't wait to open 3 times a day. However, as Li Fan's designated deputy leader, he can only try to reassure everyone, making him so annoying that his head buzzes all day. This Li Fan is really good. I've thrown all the dirty work to me, but I ran out and didn't hear anything outside the window. Although Ji Ning complained in his heart, it was obvious that the arguing that was about to be lifted under the roof still had to stand up and be the villain. The message Li Fan gave him stated the importance of this incident, so that he had to suppress everyone no matter what, and could not start a decisive battle without authorization. I'll talk about everything when he comes back. Ji Ning stood up, coughed twice and wanted to suppress everyone's voices, and saw that no one was paying attention to him. With a wave of his wide sleeves, a majestic spiritual pressure penetrated the entire great hall. After all, he is also one of the few Taoist cultivator in the temple, which really annoys him, and few can beat him. Everyone felt a heavy sense of oppression, and the noisy great hall finally calmed down. Enough trouble. Ji Ning's voice revealed some unhappiness. Everyone in the hall did not speak. Ji Ning continued. There is no need to discuss this matter anymore. I only need to comply with the requirements set by the Lord Leader. If anyone is dissatisfied, I can go to the Lord and say it in person. This is the end of the matter. Let's talk about everything when the leader comes back. Now everyone is doing their own duties and thinking about how to resist the weird counterattacks as much as possible during this period of time. Quote. In just a few words, Ji Ning concluded the matter, and no one in the hall quarreled anymore. Those who have just advocated sending troops know that Li Fan has made a decision, and now that Li Fan is not in them, it is useless to say more. If they really openly acted to resist the pre-war order, the 100 Sects Alliance might not be able to tolerate them. Moreover, they have also seen Li Fan's methods, and the people who had previously been enemies with him are now expected to be born again. They don't want to be such an early bird and provoke this leader. Seeing that everyone had no objections, Ji Ning said a few words to adjourn the meeting, and then left first. He really didn't want to listen to these people in the temple quarreling. When everyone saw this, they also left together. On the way back to their sect station, many sect leaders from the southern Moon Valley gathered together to discuss what happened in the temple just now. You said, what exactly did the words of Jining sect leader in the temple just now mean? What do you mean? Didn't it make it clear just now? The leader of their Kanglan region dispatched troops this time is worried about the hidden monster's plans, and plans to wait for him to deal with the affairs of the Kanglan region before returning to preside over the overall situation. A middle-aged cultivator in a gray robe said. Several people around looked at the gray-robed cultivator who was talking just now, as if they were looking at a fool. The gray-robed cultivator was puzzled. Why are you looking at me like this? Someone couldn't look down and said, Old Chin, don't you think this is a bit weird? The cultivator surnamed Chin did not speak, but looked at the people beside him with confusion. The person continued. You know that Zulian sect leader went to Kanglan region to ask for help some time ago. He said that everyone in the Kanglan region at that time refused to send troops to help us. At that time, some people in the Kanglan region bluntly said that they were dissatisfied with the remuneration provided by the southern Moon Valley region and wanted to obtain more resources. You think this time we would have hoped to reorganize the southern Moon Valley region, but they kept looking for it. Excuse me for being reluctant to send troops. Is this another thought that I want to take the opportunity to get more rewards? Quote. Qin Yu looked at the friend beside him with a serious expression. Impossible. It was the credit of Li Fan Li who persuaded the people in Kanglan domain to send troops to support me. He decided not to send troops this time. How could he? These methods may be used to deliberately delay asking for benefits. Hearing Qin use words, several people around were silent. Li Fan persuaded everyone and sent troops to support them. This is an undeniable kindness. But people's hearts are separated by their belly. Who knows that in a few days, people think about it and feel that the pay is too little. Everyone didn't say much, but there were some inexplicable thoughts in their hearts, and they also had some doubts about Li Fan's concerns that Jinning said in the palace. Is there really such a terrifying monster that is hidden under the water and no one is aware of it, waiting for an opportunity in secret? A big question mark was drawn in everyone's hearts. No matter what it was because of it, everyone couldn't go to provoke this matter and tore their faces with Kanglan domain. Several people glanced at each other, secretly transmitting, for a while, bring a generous gift to contact the next Jining sect leader in private. If it is really because of rewards, you can discuss it again. We can't afford it. Okay. The few people who had finished the conversation had indifferent worries on their faces. Southern Moon Valley, Kanglan Region 6th Rank Sect Fire Cloud Valley Station. Huo Yi, the Lord of Fire Cloud Valley, who had just attended the combat meeting in the Shuiyan Palace, sat carelessly on a chair in the Great Hall of the Resident. He informed his disciples of the decision of the council so that they would not rashly move the tea bowl on the back of the table and drank the tea in one fell swoop. He was in the palace just now, and tried his best to oppose Jining's proposal to stay still, but he was still suppressed. This made him very dissatisfied. Facing a strong enemy, he didn't take the initiative to attack, but cowered and waited for the enemy to initiate an attack. This really made him unacceptable. However, he couldn't refuse the order of Li Fan, the Lord of the 100 Sects Alliance, which made him quite angry at this time. In the wide room, everyone heard what their own Valley Master said just now, and they all spoke. Valley Master, how could the League Master make such a decision? This is really absurd. Because of an unnecessarily threat, why wait for the enemy to grow out of control? Quote. Valley Lord, didn't anyone in the temple object back then? How can my Kanglan domain cultivator be the one who is greedy for life and fear of death? Valley Lord, if we don't send troops now, do we really have to wait for the enemy to hit the door? Huo Yi, the Valley Master of Huiyan Valley, acted rather boldly and respected love and righteousness, and even the disciples under his sect were more infected with his ethos. Envy is like hatred, brave and belligerent. Hearing the order from Chu Yi at this time, he didn't care whether his own words were appropriate, and he was full of doubts about the leader Li Fan in the palace who advocated passive defense and issued this order. Chu Yi looked at his disciples expressionlessly at the words filled with indignation and hatred, and slammed the table. Shut up. Do you think I did not propose to send troops? Do you think that the sect leaders who came to help the Southern Moon Valley are greedy for life and fear of death? Presumptuous, you dare to question the command of the leader, no matter how big or small. Quote. Seeing that the Valley Master, who had always been very kind to them, suddenly burst into such a big fire, the Huiyangu disciples in the house closed their mouths, but their faces were still full of unwillingness. Chu Yi sighed as he saw the aggrieved expressions of these disciples in front of him. These disciples were all brought up by him, and he understood the unwillingness and anger in the hearts of these disciples. Huiyan Valley established the sect for many years, and many of his disciples were saved by him from the mist and in the strange hands, and then he came into his sect. These disciples' parents, brothers and sisters, family and friends were all killed by these damn weirdness, and they have a natural resentment and disgust towards these weirdness. When they heard On's words, they suddenly lost control of their emotions, and he could understand. These disciples of them are absolutely unable to compromise like weird. As long as they have a chance, they will surely kill all the weird as much as possible before they will give up. It's just poor people. Chu Yi put away the anger that had suddenly risen just now, and said mildly, there is no right or wrong in this matter, and the leader also has his concerns. Although I don't understand or support this decision, you must remember that you must not arbitrarily discuss the decisions and behaviors of the sect leaders who decide to defend and wait. There is no rule to make a circle. If you have a fire, don't send it to your comrades in the same camp. Killing a few weirdness is better than anything. Do you know? Quote. Although the disciples of Huiyan Valley in the room were still a bit unwilling on their faces, they still didn't dare not listen to the words of their own Valley Master, and after all, they reluctantly responded. Chu Yi didn't say much when he saw it. It's not enough to pass it. One training is enough. It's okay to let these disciples under the sect be a little angry, so that he won't be able to boost them when the war starts. After saying that, Chu Yi waved his broad palm like a fan, and let the disciples in front of him go down. Next to the Huiyangu resident, a sharp-eyed man frowned when he heard the unwilling discussion from the Huiyangu disciple. After a long while, when these Huiyangu disciples walked away, he turned around and left. This person is Xiaofeng, who came to the Southern Moon Valley. After arriving in the Southern Moon Valley, he found out the current situation of the Southern Moon Valley. The first thing he did was to find the 100 Sect alliance of the Kanglan region. Indicates the intention of own. But Ji Ning heard the report from his disciple, and heard that some foreign cultivator saw that the Southern Moon Valley was invaded by weirdness, and came to help, but he didn't take it seriously. Firstly, for the more than 1,000 cultivators led by Xiaofeng, this assistance is nothing to him. Secondly, their alliance is fighting against the weird army with weird means. These unknown cultivators suddenly come to disarm them, saying that they will join the alliance army to fight against the weirdness. Ji Ning didn't believe this statement at all. No prophet cannot afford to be early. Whoever has nothing to do, travels thousands of miles to an unfamiliar area, just to slay demons and demons. This is okay for others. For him, after he has seen those foggy methods and Wanbajai's rebellion tempted them to go to the land of extreme flames and wanted to kill them all. It is impossible to trust these people easily. If these unfamiliar cultivators were secretly controlled by the Mist Soul, because his carelessly accepted these people in, the loss would be too great. For these people, Ji Ning is very determined and will never accept these people. However, he did not act excessively. If he killed these people just because of suspicion, it would be too vicious. So Ji Ning casually asked everyone in the alliance to remember not to accept cultivators from unknown sources at will. Then he asked the disciples to dismiss Xiaofeng and others casually. But Xiaofeng would naturally not give up so easily. He worked hard and brought his disciples to this dangerous Southern Moon Valley. It must have something to gain, and the best way to complete the system task is to use these currently the most powerful 100 sect alliances. So he visited many people secretly, although they were all resolutely refused, but he still let him find someone willing to accept him. That is the enemy of Fire Cloud Valley. However, Chu Yi also kept an eye on him, only to be strict with him, allowing them to accompany them to kill the enemy together when fighting against the weird. However, no news within the alliance will be revealed at all. And when they were fighting, there were Huiyangu disciples who stared at them to prevent them from making small moves. However, Xiaofeng didn't care too much, as long as he could mix with the 100 sect alliances during the battle to avoid being surrounded by a large number of weird sudden attacks. Anyway, his current goal is to kill more weirdness and accumulate some mission contributions. And after dozens of battles, big and small, his relationship with the enemy has improved a bit. After all, 64%. Chapter 168 Preparation of Golden Core. The turbid fine lava ashes floated in the air, covering the rocks on the ground with a touch of gray. On the vast ground, a huge black striped tiger galloped on the ground. Looking closely, there was a young man sitting on this majestic black tiger. The youth's expression was wilting, and the surface of his forehead kept oozing big sweat spots, dripping onto the large plush tiger's back. One person, one tiger, and a big bird with a yellow body and a red beak followed closely in the air. This person is Li Fan. Li Fan sat in the lotus position, his eyes half closed. It seems that this Nine Cauldrons town charm is almost unsupported. His fingertips swiped across his own dantian, revealing a bleak talisman paper full of fine cracks. Li Fan's expression was calm, and he didn't panic at all because the Nine Cauldrons town charm was about to expire. In the past few days, he took the more than 20 demonic beasts he had conquered, and carried a large amount of lunar to gather monster core, starting from Qian Yuanzong, and came straight to the land of extreme fire. Along the way, the weird demonic beasts attracted by the monster core of lunar gathering were countless, but they did not stop the speed of Li Fan and his group. They were all beheaded by the powerful demonic beasts around him. And Li Fan's heavenly Dao merits are also growing, and soon enough she accumulates enough merits. Exchange the remaining elixir needed to perform the heavenly pill method. Now all the preparations before Golden Core have been completed. Only the last step is to enter the land of extreme fire and find the core of this place, Tianhuayan. Then, leap forward, and together with hundreds of treasured medicines that complement each other, in the outer flames that are hot enough to instantly melt the ordinary Taoist cultivator, use extreme fire to refine your body, stimulate your own talents, and achieve a flawless gold core. The law of the heavenly pill is extremely dangerous. A careless person may be turned into ashes by the external inflammation of the day. During this trip, Li Fan did not dare to say that he was 100% sure, so he could only fight desperately. Cheng then faded the glitz, washed away the lead dust, and swallowed a gold core into the abdomen, breaking through the door of life and death. Longevity surged again, reaching 3,000 lifespans. If you fail, there is nothing left. Soon, the galloping figure of the black tiger slowed down, and a deep black rocky hill tightly grouped like a thread appeared in front of Li Fan. The black tiger flexed its legs slightly, and then leapt up with a sudden force. The sharp tiger claws pierced into the tough mountain and kept climbing upwards. Soon, he came to the highest point of the mountain. On a slightly gentler mountain, Li Fan turned over from the tiger's back. The moment he landed, his legs could not help but tremble slightly, extremely weak. Well, you two can go down. Just wait for me at the foot of the mountain. If I don't show up after 5 days, then don't have to wait. Let's make a living separately. Li Fan struggled to stabilize his figure and said. Xiao Huang fell on the ground. A pair of red eyes watched Li Fan tightly without saying a word, while the black fierce tiger rubbed Li Fan's body with his huge tiger head. He almost arched the weak Li Fan into the magma below. Li Fan grasped the stone wall beside him, a little speechless, and then said in a serious voice, Go down the mountain, it's useless for you to stay here, but it distracts me. Hearing Li Fan's serious words, a bird and a tiger slowly turned and went down the mountain. Seeing 2 demonic beasts walking away gradually, they stopped at the foot of the mountain. Li Fan didn't look anymore, but turned around and stared at the raging magma 100 meters below him. The light in his eyes flickered, and with the help of the broken sage pupil, he saw the humble pure red light in the magma. It is the true appearance of Tianhuayan. However, finding this outer flame is only the first step, and how to steadily pass through the turbulent hot magma so as to absorb the extreme fire power in the outer flame is the most important. Fortunately, there are still some remaining heavenly Dao merits, plus the 300 disciples who have fought the weirdness in the southern Moon Valley these days are still providing me with a steady stream of merit points. Li Fan's mind sank. After a while, there was a dark blue in his hand, with a shimmering orb of astonishing coldness. The 3rd rank different treasure, Ice Jade Orb. It contains a strong cold air, where one will yi with you. With the protection of this Ice Jade Orb, you can travel unimpeded in this magma. Li Fan said in his heart. Seeing that everything before Golden Core had been prepared, Li Fan no longer hesitated, and the Ice Jade Orb in his hand jumped down, and disappeared after splashing the starting point in the thick magma. At the foot of the mountain, the little yellow and black tigers looked at the disappearing figure on the mountain, and remained silent for a long while. My lord, do you think the master can succeed this time? The black striped fierce tiger's rough voice came out, facing the little zodiac above his head. Usually, these demonic beasts, who are subdued by Li Fan, usually call Xiao Huang an adult. As for Xiao Huang, only Li Fan can call it. They dare not call Fei snake bird like that, they are really afraid of being beaten. Xiao Huang stared at the direction of Li Fan's disappearance in the distance, and paused. A good man doesn't live long, and he will be harmed for thousands of years. If you die, he will be fine. The black striped fierce tiger didn't get angry when he heard Xiao Huang's words. There was a hint of joy on the fierce tiger's face. That's good, that's good. These demonic beasts, which were subdued by Li Fan, were reluctant at first, but when they felt their own skyrocketing realm after signing the contract, they fell silent one by one. There is not much resistance to accepting Li Fan as the master. Moreover, since the star realm was covered by endless mist, their living space for demonic beasts has become smaller and smaller. Many demonic beasts with insufficient strength have been eroded by the strange fog and turned into lunatics who only know how to kill. And the demonic beasts that are good enough to withstand the erosion of the fog are basically taken away by the monsters hiding in the dark to make puppets, and there is not much left. Therefore, they hate those weird and holy monsters. Now Li Fan found them, increased their strength, and led them to kill these monsters that threatened them for a long time. New hatred and old hatred rushed to my heart. They are naturally very happy, without any dissatisfaction. Instead, they have a good impression of Li Fan. They don't want Li Fan to have trouble. 5 days. Then wait for peace of mind. Xiao Huang sighed softly in his heart. Venerable, in 5 days, our race will be able to have an extra 500,000 weird army. By then our race will surely be able to capture this southern Moon Valley in one fell swoop. In a long mountain range, in the dense fog of invisible fingers, an illusory tall figure said with a hoarse and completely incomprehensible voice. And in the valley deep in this mountain range, there are so many weirdness that can't be seen at a glance. At least there are as many as 1,000,000, and the aura is extremely strong. Every weird here has a strength that is not weaker than that of the Tong Aperture realm. Yeah, a majestic and thick voice responded faintly. In the mist, a figure with a height of 100 feet, 8-armed human-shaped feet, and thick tentacles over 10 feet long behind it, retreated the figure who had just spoken. Looking at the gray lake below him with the densely packed abdomen, he was silent. In the gray lake, 6 or 70 terrible weird creatures of various shapes crawled out of the pond every second. 64%. Chapter 169. Tick, tick. Drops of gray liquid fell into the lake from a vortex formed by dense to extreme mists in the sky. This 100-meter-long lake was completely formed by the accumulation of liquid mist. If you want to use the water droplets condensed from the fog to gather into a large lake, you can imagine that the time required for it cannot be achieved in 1 or 2 days. The monsters of these holy races have been planning for a long time. Having been staring at the distorted figure of the gray lake under him, the hundreds of compound eyes on his abdomen suddenly condensed, looking out of the mountains. It's just to perfect the holy pool of our race to allow these human races to live a few more days, and there are really stupid people who come to die. The tall monster with 8 arms and 2 feet, the tentacles behind it swayed randomly. 10 Taoist Saint Clan monsters immediately appeared in front of it. Take these newborn little guys in the valley to practice their hands, and clean up the rubbish that broke in outside. Yes, 10 Taoist monsters, their bodies turned into a mist and spread out, covering the entire valley, and then disappeared with a million weirdness in the valley. Among the Gunnan Mountains, more than 60,000 cultivators are walking in this silent, bare mountain. They were orderly and shuttled quickly in the mountains. Although they were large in number, they did not appear to be chaotic at all. At the front of the team, Mei Hu, Zhang Luci, Sen Hisong and other players on the top of the 3 rankings communicated with divine thoughts. Sen Hisong, who looked middle-aged and had a serious face, followed up with the people in front of him and said, "Guys, don't you think this mountain range is too quiet? We have been here for more than a long time, and we didn't even see the weirdness of the team along the way, and occasionally there were 2 or 3 sluggish demonic beasts with very poor strength." Quote. Well, it stands to reason that this place should be the weird lair. The fog and soul array that disturbed the southern Moon Valley is located here. The defensive force here shouldn't be so loose. It's a bit strange. Shang Xing on the side replied. Mei Hu thought for a while, and then replied, according to the players in the southern Moon Valley, they will be following the cultivator army tomorrow to fight these weirdness again. Now that the defensive power here is weak, it is reasonable. After all, these weirds have gone through so many battles with the cultivator army, and death's weirdness are not rare. Now these weird forces should have been greatly weakened. It is estimated that they will gather all the weirdness and prepare to fight tomorrow's war. Quote. Hearing Mei Hu's explanation, Zhang Luci's delicate face showed a little worry. She didn't know why she didn't encounter any danger along the way, but her heart was still a little uneasy for no reason. This is an intuition about danger that she has formed after she came to this strange world and experienced countless battles with weirdness. And she believed that she was not the only one who felt something abnormal. She turned her head to look at other people around her. The expression on everyone's face is a bit solemn. Just because the destination of this trip is right in front of them, they can immediately reach the foggy soul array. The generous rewards after completing the system task make them subconsciously ignore their own perception. A wisp of sweat ran down the white neck and on the inside of his chest. She pursed her lips slightly, slowed down, and decided to speak after thinking about it. I think we should stop for a while. I always feel something is wrong. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly turned their heads to look at Zhang Luci, who was pale and serious, and then stopped. Everyone's expression is extremely tense, and the long-term intuition makes everyone's nerves tense. Knowing that Zhang Luci's proposal appeared, the faint anxiety in everyone's hearts suddenly came to their hearts. They had already felt that something was wrong with the quiet and terrifying Gunnan mountain range. At this time, after the team of more than 60,000 players, there was also a squad composed of 600 to 700 people who were secretly traveling and stopped. Pavilion Lord, they don't know why, so they stopped. Xiao Feng narrowed his eyes slightly, concealed his figure, and said nothing. After they left the Huiyan Valley resident, not long after they arrived at the Gunnan mountain range, they met a team of players headed by Mei Hu and others. When Xiao Feng saw these people, he knew that they were using the same calculations as him. He did not step forward to disturb these player teams, but chose to silently follow behind these people, let them open the way for them, and thought in his mind how to weaken these people's strength as much as possible, so as not to lose the contribution value of the final mission by them. In the end, Xiaofeng had an idea. In the Star Palace, he used his merit points to redeem a lot of Yin Demon incense, which was similar to the Lunar Gathering monster core, and then sent more than 300 disciples to the sides and front of these player teams quietly. Ignite the demon incense in the distance, attract a large number of demonic beasts and weirdness, and create difficulties for these player teams. Because the distance is not too close, no one of these player teams can find out, and the weird and demonic beasts that were attracted to kill these disciples of the Burning Heaven Pavilion holding the incense of the demon. Following the breath of the player team, they searched for the past, and then a battle broke out. Mei Hu frowned, looked at Zhang Luci, and said in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong? I think we can't move on anymore, it's just too wrong here." Zhang Lu thought. The quiet and gentle voice seemed very loud in this quiet and excessive mountain. Along the way, we have encountered dozens of weird encounters, large and small, and more than 40,000 lives have been left on this land forever. I have lost so much, such a long and difficult journey, I have been waiting, only the last step, and now you say stop. Mei Hu's expression was a bit hideous, almost suppressing the anger in his heart. The people beside Mei Hu also nodded silently. Yes, they almost crawled over the weird ocean step by step along the way. I don't know what's going on. The weirdness they encountered in this southern moon valley is too much, fighting one after another, and they can't avoid it. In dozens of battles, large and small, they killed more than 200,000 weirdness, but the number of weirdness still did not decrease. Every time they marched, they would continue to encounter a large number of weird attacks. The crowd was really overwhelmed, and many of the exhausted cultivators were unable to support them and died in weird hands. Even their elite players on the top 3 rankings have 30% dead, and now almost everyone is wounded. The merits gained from beheading and killing strange gains along the way are all used to redeem the healing medicine pill in the Star Palace. But still unable to make ends meet, the injury is still getting worse. Many people even hurt the foundation, if there is not a lot of heavenly Dao merits in exchange for the medicine pill to repair the damaged foundation. Genius treasure. Their path of practice, I am afraid, can only stop here. They didn't retreat. They sacrificed so much, and victory was near. Even if they knew that there was danger ahead, they had to take a look with their own eyes and try to complete the task. Otherwise, this kind of loss is really unbearable for them. Zhang Luci looked at Mei Hu, who was feeling a little out of control, and knew what he was thinking. Now everyone must destroy the Mist Soul Array to get the greatest reward to make up for the loss. However, she still believes that she is more willing to follow her inner intuition, even if she can't destroy the Mist Soul Array this time and obtain a large number of contribution points to make up for the loss. She is not willing to lose her life here. Mei Hu, we said beforehand that if there is a disagreement in the middle, I can leave the team. Zhang Luci ignored Mei Hu's impoliteness and said coldly. Mei Hu paused, still wanting to say something, but after looking at the indifferent Zhang Luci, he still sighed and said, "Since Zhang Sect leader has decided to go, I will not forcefully keep it." In this extremely depressing atmosphere, Zhang Luci, who chose and had a higher strength than him, turned his face, obviously unwise. After Mei Hu finished speaking, he closed his mouth. Zhang Luci bowed to everyone's cupped fist, said sorry, then turned and left. Just when Zhang Luci just took out the 1,000 miles shuttle talisman from the backpack, planning to borrow the talisman and leave quickly. In the calm mountains, strong winds are everywhere. Brought up a majestic mist. The mist gradually dissipated, and countless distorted and terrifying weirdness appeared in front of the player team. There are countless mountains and plains, which surrounded all these more than 60,000 players. Zhang Luci's white fingers squeezed the Wanli shuttle in his hand tightly, and his lips were white. How could this happen? Mei Hu and others and a large number of players were silent at this time. It turns out that this is really a trap. This sudden appearance of endless weirdness caused these players to lose all their fighting spirit in an instant. It's impossible to win. It's impossible to win. It's over. This time it's really dead. There was a brief silence, and the fear in the hearts of all players surged up instantly, destroying their minds. Run, run. In an instant, a large number of cultivators scattered and fled, panicking. You squeeze me, I squeeze you. Everyone only hates their parents for giving birth to 2 fewer legs. At this moment, the heavenly Dao merits, mission rewards, and future strength are not important anymore. As long as you can survive, you can do anything. Looking at the many cultivators panicking, The 10 Taoist monsters standing on the mountain wall showed some joking and disdain, and then gave an order, "Little guys, tear up these wastes." 65%. Chapter 171 Side Slaughter. Following an order from a monster on the cliff wall, countless weirdness spread all over the mountains in a swarming upwards. The team of more than 60,000 cultivator who fled straight into the mountains culminated in the past. There are a million weirdness you compete for me, and every cultivator is surrounded by hundreds of weirdness. Then, there was a massacre. For a time, stumps and broken arms were everywhere, and people were crying and howling incessantly. Every second, there are hundreds of cultivators, torn into pieces by distorted, ugly and weird shapes. There was a layer of blood mist in the misty Gunnan Mountains. The heart-piercing cry and this tragic purgatory on earth seemed to make the sky unbearable, and the sky was gray, and it was raining drizzle. The squally wind, accompanied by drizzle, fell on the ground, and mixed with a layer of minced flesh and blood on the ground, into a puddle of sticky scarlet mud. Call, call, call. While the wind was whistling, Mayhew watched as the team was completely divided, and the player cultivators were scattered and slaughtered one side. Then my heart was full of sadness. It's over. There was only such a lament in his heart at this time. Mayhew knew that since the millions of weird things appeared in the mountains and wilds, they were met with a dead end. They can't beat it. All they can do is to try their best to break out of this desperate encirclement. The tragic massacre did not stop for a moment, from the end of a million weirdness to the present, but within 3 to 5 minutes, there are more than 60,000 cultivators in the field. More than 50,000 lives were gone in the blink of an eye. The cultivators that are still surviving at this moment are basically Realm's relatively high-strength group. As for the players under the Aperture Realm and the disciples they brought, they have all turned into a puddle of mud on the ground. No bones existed. Zhang Luci, Sen Hisong, Mayhew, Leng Ji, Zheng Gong, Shang Xing, these elite players on the top 3 rankings, are all bloodied and embarrassed at this moment. They knew that no matter what they did at this time, they would not be able to avoid the fact that they were completely defeated this time, and they had completely withdrawn from this stage in this epic mission of the wild and wild world. Not only that, but in the face of the current crisis, it is still unknown whether they can survive. The squad formed by Mayhew and others just gathered together to deal with the seemingly endless weird encirclement and suppression, and then struggled to slowly break through to the location outside the mountain range. Even in the process, the teammates around them were constantly being pulled and torn apart by those weirdness. They did not delay for a moment, not because they were cruel, but because they were overwhelmed now. How could they have spare time to take care of others? Follow up and rush out. Whether we can survive this catastrophe depends on our good fortune. As for those who are caught out of the team by weirdness, they can only ask for their own blessings. A blood-red spirit mist appeared on Mayhew's body, and his sturdy muscles were covered with bulging veins, rushing hard. Now in this team of less than 100 people, everyone gritted their teeth and remained silent. They understood the meaning of Mayhew's voice just now. Now everyone is precarious. If someone can't keep up with the team, don't blame the big guy, do some tricks behind the scenes. Everyone looked dignified, constantly waving the swords in their hands, beheading the weird surroundings one by one, making a way for the team to escape. Kill, kill, kill. In a quarter of an hour, the small team of Mayhew and others were killing endlessly, so they didn't stingy with their spirit power and the whole cards they carried to save their lives. One-time powerful attacking talisman, a huge life-threatening spell that consumes spirit power. They are thrown out without money, and no one wants to have reservations at this moment. They know that if they don't use these whole cards now, I'm afraid they won't have this opportunity to use them later. And they don't break through as quickly as possible, no matter how good they are, and if their spirit power is full, can they escape from a million weirdness alone? Therefore, there is only one word they can do at the moment, which is to kill. Keep killing, to make a way out for everyone and for yourself. The weird sharp limbs constantly attacked everyone. One after another, either carrying a terrifying power, or an unremarkable strange trick, is also constantly attacking everyone. During the difficult breakout process, people continued to bleed their lives and were torn apart by the strange sharp claws glowing with deep chills. On the cliff, 10 hideous monsters with a twisted halo around them stood quietly, jokingly watching the player team that was almost slaughtered by the endless weirdness. You said, how long can these people last? HMPH, in a moment, the remaining 10,000 remnants will be defeated and will surely die. I don't think so, Nuo, there is a small team over there. It seems that the strength is not bad, and it seems that it is about to rush out of this valley. Oh, several monsters opened their eyes to the edge of the valley and looked in the direction of Mayhu and others. It's a bit lucky to be able to hold on for so long. If I didn't notice it, I almost let these wastes escape. It happened that I haven't seen blood for a long time, and my hands are a little itchy. After all, this monster was eager to try, so he had to go off the court himself to intercept Mayhu and others. And many more. The monster, who was full of temperament and was about to end the game, paused when he heard the sound of obstruction. Why, do you want to stop playing? The monster who had just spoken shook his head, did not answer, but looked towards the side of the valley with the vertical eye on his forehead. Look. Hearing it, the eyes of the other 9 monsters also peeked to the side beyond the valley. At this moment, their faces changed a little. These despicable human beings have some means to make me subconsciously ignore them. These people are hiding deep. If it weren't for Toynbee's reminder, they would have almost missed these humans. Wait, you see where they are going. They want to bypass me and wait and go to the holy pool guarded by Master Venerable. What a courage. At this moment, all these heavy-breathing monsters on the top of the mountain could not sit still. Although I know these human cultivators, even if I avoid them and come to the holy pool where the holy race Venerable sits, they can't make any waves. Instead, they will be killed by the Venerable in an instant. However, Venerable had just clearly asked their subordinates to clean up all these humans outside the valley. If these people are really brought to Venerable, they will inevitably be punished. Thinking of the terrifying Venerable in the back, they are all unstoppable. Go. We must stop these lifeless humans. Kill all these guys. 65%. Chapter 171. Xiao Feng's Misconduct. A strange roar came from the mouths of several monsters, and the 10 monsters had to set off together to intercept those people, no longer paying attention to the Mayhu and others who were about to break out. Compared with these human cultivators, who are close to annihilation, they care more about the daring, venerable guy in the mountains. However, one of the 10 monsters, faintly headed by a monster with a stronger aura, uttered a burst of incomprehensible syllables. The task assigned by Master Venerable must be completed. None of these humans can let go, otherwise, let's wait for Master Venerable's punishment. Then the 2 monsters separated from the remaining monsters and headed towards Mayhu and the others. At this time, outside the center of the battlefield, more than 700 cultivators were covered with a halo. The figure is moving fast among the unground mountains and rocks. It was the Fenshin Pavilion and his party led by Xiao Feng. Just now, Xiao Feng and his disciples followed far behind the group of players in front of him. After a cloud of mist surged, he saw an army of millions of weird suddenly appear in front of him. Xiao Feng's heart trembled, and the Fenshin Pavilion disciple who had been walking forward quietly also stopped abruptly. Looking at the fierce battle between the weird and the cultivator that had already begun ahead, Xiao Feng felt a little grateful. Fortunately, since I came to this Gunnan mountain range, I have been hanging far behind those idiots. If I came here by myself, I'm afraid that this place is also bad luck at this time. He looked back at the group of disciples behind him and saw countless weird disciples suddenly appearing. The disciples who were sifting chaff and face were like earth-colored disciples, turned around and gave the order to take these disciples and quickly flee away from the valley. Hearing Xiao Feng's words, the disciples of Fenshin Pavilion were amnesty. They just saw this weird army that was hundreds of times more numerous than them, and they couldn't raise the intent to resist half of the battle. They just wanted to escape quickly. But I was also worried that my patron would not give up, and would have to take them up to death. Fortunately, their pavilion master didn't seem to be mad, and took them to give those weird meals, but chose to take them away from this extremely dangerous place. More than 700 cultivators in the Fenshin Pavilion and his party turned their heads and ran wildly, escaping quickly. However, in 5 or 6 minutes, they had escaped dozens of miles away with their best efforts. Even the broad and majestic valley can hardly be seen clearly. The people of Burning Heaven Pavilion are a little relieved. Xiao Feng's pace slowed down slightly, but something was wrong at this time. His face wrinkled and solemn for a while, and a strange smile appeared on his face for a while. Fortunately, the disciples of Fenshin Pavilion were busy running away and didn't see it. Otherwise, there may be some psychological shadow from being scared. Stop it. Xiao Feng's expression was tense. The drizzle in the sky was rapid, and the wind howled. The disciples of Fenshin Pavilion who fled did not hear clearly for a while, and they continued to gallop beyond the Gunnan mountain range. Xiao Feng showed a gloomy eyebrows, swelling in his body. Spirit power shouted, "I asked you to stop, didn't you hear it?" An angry voice rang under the spirit power of Xiaofeng in 8 Realms Peak, and the disciples of Fenshin Pavilion could be heard clearly. They stopped in a hurry, looking at Xiaofeng behind them with a little doubt, a little anxiety, and a little horror on their faces. Everyone who stopped was silent, looking at Xiaofeng, who was still angry on his face, and everyone spoke with feeling. In an instant, in this long mountain range covered by mist, only the patter of rain around him and the increasingly rapid howling of wind were left. Xiaofeng looked at the disciple in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "Let's go back." "Yes," Fenshin Pavilion disciple subconsciously responded, and then suddenly discovered something was wrong. "Huh, what?" the pavilion master just said. "Go back. Where are you going back?" "In the valley surrounded by millions of weirdness. Everyone is full of doubts, and there is still a little unbelievable, is their pavilion master living enough?" However, under the long-term accumulation of prestige and the thought of the miserable appearance of a disciple who had dared to question Xiaofeng's words, no one dared to ask more. But facing the end that was obviously bound to die, even if they had complied with Xiaofeng's words on the surface at this moment, they really didn't dare to return to that piece of purgatory. Xiaofeng obviously understood this truth, and explained it in an unprecedentedly good manner. This time, the Gunan mountain range is coming out weirdly, all of which are encircling and suppressing those cultivators. This is the moment when the defensive force in the depths of the valley is the most empty. At this time, I waited to sneak into it quietly, and there would be nothing wrong. This time I came to the Gunan mountain range and I would definitely not be able to return empty-handed. Quote. After Xiaofeng finished speaking, a regular diamond-shaped jade plate appeared out of thin air in his hand. With the help of this third-rank formation, it is not a problem for us to quietly avoid the weird group. A trace of flesh pain flashed in Xiaofeng's eyes. This third-rank formation was prepared in advance before he came to the Gunan mountain range, and it cost him a full 10,000 points of heavenly Dao merit. And it's only a one-time array, and it becomes useless after using it once. But if he doesn't take it out at this moment, and withdraws from here in a desperate manner, then he will really lose his money. After thinking about it, the jade array in his hand released a hazy brilliance, covering all the more than 700 disciples of Fenshin Pavilion. In an instant, people like them seemed to have suddenly disappeared from this world, their figure and the surrounding environment merged into one, their breath disappeared, and they would not reveal a half. The anxiety of the Fenshin Pavilion disciples finally eased a bit, but it was only a little bit. Everyone followed Xiaofeng towards the place where he had finally escaped just now, and at this time most of the disciples quietly lowered their heads, with a tangled expression on their faces. In this way, Xiaofeng brought the 700 Burning Heaven Pavilion disciples behind him back to the vicinity of this murderous valley once again, bypassing the dense viciousness and weirdness in the valley, and marching towards the depths of the valley from the side. Fortunately, with the help of the Xiaoyao restraining array, they didn't alarm any weirdness along the way. Although looking at these massive amounts of horror and weirdness, it is inevitable in my heart to be frightened, but fortunately, no accident happened. Xiaofeng was also slightly relieved in his heart. Almost. There are still 300 miles to reach the position of the Foggy Soul Formation. Destroy the Mist Soul Formation in a moment, and leave immediately. Even if the weirdness really traps me, it won't be a problem. Xiaofeng felt the yellowed talisman paper in his arms, and his heart settled down. Universal Shuttle Symbol. His second whole card cost him 8,000 merits to purchase a breakthrough space blockade. Even if the energy disturbs the stability of the surrounding space, it can still send him out of the third-rank treasure. Although he could only be transported away alone, it was worth it, but it was more than 700 disciples, and he still left more than 1,000 disciples in the Fenshin Pavilion. This kind of loss he bears, as long as this task can be completed, all losses can be made up. Xiaofeng coldly glanced at these disciples beside him, without the slightest fluctuation in his eyes. Just when Xiaofeng and the others were gradually approaching their destination, where the mist soul array was. In front of them appeared 8 black shadows rolling in gray mist and huge in size. Humans, where do you want to go? The advancing Xiaofeng and the disciple Fen Tian Pavilion behind them looked at the figure that suddenly appeared in front of them and blocked their way, with a dull expression. Xiaofeng's heart was shocked when he saw the 8 huge monsters in front looking at own. 65%. Chapter 172. Xiaofeng saw the 8 monsters with terrifying aura suddenly appearing in front of him, and his heart shook wildly. What a terrifying aura. Then, without hesitation, he flew back, and at the same time touched the shuttle talisman in his arms with his palm. Before the disciples around Fenshin Pavilion could react, they saw Xiaofeng turn around and flee. He didn't even say hello to them, obviously asking them to die here. Now his face changed, full of disappointment and resentment. Suddenly, Xiaofeng, who turned to flee, had a flower in front of his eyes, and a squeak came from his ear. Then he saw a cluster of blood spurt out suddenly, an arm was flying in the air, and a dark yellow talisman was still pinched in his hand. What? Xiaofeng was startled at first, and then he felt a sharp pain that came from his own shoulder. His arm was cut off in an instant, and he didn't even see how the enemy made his move. Enduring the severe pain, he turned and looked behind him. I saw a pale skin, like a monster, like a giant eyeless frog fished out of the deep sea just now, with a big mouth open, as if silently mocking his self-defense. Humans want to leave without saying hello, isn't it too rude? Seeing the universe shuttle talisman used to save his life fell to the ground, his own arm was cut off without noticing it. Xiaofeng had been calm and unhurried, as if the aura that was under his control finally disappeared. His face became extremely pale. What do you want? Xiaofeng asked with a trembling voice, clutching Qi Zhen's broken right arm. This is the most dangerous situation Xiaofeng has ever faced in history. Since coming to this world, he has gone smoothly, and the location of Fenshin Pavilion is one of the small realms in the great realm of hundreds of battles. The sky is abundant and the mist is thin. He was able to take the Fenshin Pavilion to develop steadily, slowly accumulating strength and developing power. In addition, the Burning Heaven Pavilion where he is located is a sect force that has been passed down for a long time. Although the door has fallen, it still has a bit of background. There is no shortage of cultivation technique, martial skill, and spellcraft. In addition, the Burning Heaven Pavilion has a very good terrain and strong spiritual qi. Soon he and his disciples entered a period of rapid ascension. Because the fog in the place is not too dense, the weird riots they have to face once a month are also very few, and they can easily kill them all. So this time, for Xiaofeng, it was the first time facing such a mortal predicament. He was a little scared. Hearing Xiaofeng's words, the 8 terrifying monsters opposite the Fenshin Pavilion disciple let out a deep and terrible laugh. Have you heard that this human being asked what we want? HMPH, I guess he's going to pee his pants in fright now. You see, his face is really ugly. Boy, I tell you what we want, it's very simple, just keep your lives. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaofeng's heart trembled, and he hurriedly shouted to the surrounding Burning Pavilion disciples, come on, kill these monsters. Then he ran forward to the place where the Universe Shuttle Talisman dropped without looking back. But none of the disciples of Fenshin Pavilion set out. They looked at Xiaofeng and their eyes were full of anger. This person never regarded them as disciples from beginning to end, no, or even as a human being. They just treat them as tools that can be thrown away after they are done. In that case, why should they listen to this person? Originally, they were worried about being expelled from Sect, but now, the Lord of the Burning Heaven Pavilion will have a hard time protecting himself. What else are they worried about? Brothers, don't worry about this bastard, you can escape one by one. Suddenly an angry voice came from among the disciples of Fentian Pavilion. Afterwards, more than 700 people fled in all directions together, and no one was in charge of Xiaofeng who left them to escape alone. You people don't want to live anymore, do you? Come back to this sect leader, go kill those monsters, come back. Xiaofeng's expression was a bit stunned, as if frightened by the sight in front of him, he shouted frantically. But no one paid any attention to him. Xiaofeng cursed, damn things, when the sect leader returns, I will kill all of you traitors. With a hideous expression on his face, he ran to the Chenkin shuttle talisman that fell on the ground like flying, and stretched out his hand to grab the talisman paper, but he immediately touched the piece of talisman paper. The palm of his hand stopped, it was difficult to advance. Xiaofeng's face was full of astonishment. What? Looking at this great show that showed humanity to the fullest, the 8 monsters watched them with gusto and did not rush. You two will get rid of those humans, and don't let one go. The pale giant frog-like monster said just now. Don't worry, it's just a bunch of trash fish. After that, the 2 monsters left and chased in the direction where the disciples of Fenshin Pavilion fled. After a few breaths, there were endless screams and roars from the misty mountains. And the giant frog-shaped monster watched Xiaofeng standing in front of a blood-stained arm, beating an invisible wall of air forcefully, and approached Xiaofeng step by step. Why, how could this be the case? Xiaofeng's spirit power gushing, he constantly slapped on the invisible air wall in front of him, feeling a little out of control. He even forgot to run away, and pinned his hope of survival on that piece of talisman paper. He and Chenkin shuttle talisman is only a short distance from the palm of his hand, but this distance is like a moat, so he can't reach it no matter what. He looked at the terrifying monster slowly coming towards him, his eyes a little dull. It just kept mechanically leaning towards the yellow talisman paper that was close at hand, trying to hold this last hope in his hand, but it was impossible to reach it. Gradually he stopped waving his arms and turned to look at the huge monster already standing in front of him. With his eyes losing their brilliance, he just stared at the monster in front of him blankly, without any movement. The monster standing in front of him with bare pale skin, looked at the godless human under his feet, and shook his head. A twisted tentacle on the back of his chest grabbed Xiaofeng, opened his mouth full of fishy wind, and was about to swallow Xiaofeng. The stench came from the nose, and the stench seemed to irritate Xiaofeng, causing him to regain his senses. He looked at the ferocious mouth that was getting closer and closer to him, struggling frantically. No, you can't kill me. I can give you whatever you want. I am a man of destiny with a system. You can't kill me. I am the son of destiny. I can't die here. Quote. Grasping the monster Xiaofeng sent to his mouth, his movement stopped slightly. When Xiaofeng saw the monster's movement stop, he was even more delighted as he struggled and shouted, "Yes, let me go, you can't kill me." It looked at the crazy Xiaofeng in his hand, with some doubts in his eyes. What is this human being talking about? Can human beings really eat it? It won't be contagious if you eat it. Quote. There was a bit of disgust in the monster's eyes. 66%. Chapter 173 The upcoming decisive battle. Forget it, it should be okay, let's eat first. The giant frog-like monster shook its huge head, grasping Xiaofeng's tentacles tightly for a few minutes, and sending it straight to his mouth. Xiaofeng's struggle was getting smaller and smaller, and he gradually lost consciousness and stopped moving. Suddenly, a whisper came out of thin air. The giant frog monster stood straight, with a serious expression, glanced at the unconscious Xiaofeng who was immediately brought to his mouth, and stopped. The thousands of finely twisted tentacles on the back penetrated out of the body, wrapping Xiaofeng layer by layer, forming a human-shaped cocoon shell. After placing Xiaofeng on the ground, the giant frog monster stood quietly. After a long while, the screams of the surrounding screams gradually disappeared, and the two monsters also returned from the distant mountains. Have you dealt with it? Well, none of them ran away, don't worry. The 6 monsters standing in place nodded, and together with the 2 monsters who had just rushed back after dealing with the disciples of Burning Heaven Pavilion, they walked in the direction of the battlefield where they left. Above the valley at this time, Endless Weird stood still in place. 8 monsters stepped on the ground covered with scarlet mud and made gurgling sounds. The wind ceased, and the drizzle ceased. In the wide valley, there are only 1,000,000 weird and 8 vicious monsters standing silently. Those human cultivators here should have been cleaned up. It looks like it's all killed. A monster glanced at the scarlet mud half a meter behind his feet and said. But why didn't those 2 guys come back? Quote. The 8 monsters were silent for a while. Why? Go find it. Forget it, 2 wastes, this little thing can't be done well, go back first, don't delay the big business of Venerable. The giant frog monster looked at the cocoon shell in his hand and said. Good. Just when they were about to leave with the weirdness in the valley, a huge flying insect covered with black hair staggered over in the distance. Seeing that half of the body was cut off, and the black and bloody figure covered in charred flesh, the eyes of a few monsters in the valley revealed an unbelievable look. How did you make it like this? What's going on? What happened? Didn't you and Weta chase and kill the cultivator team that wanted to escape? How did you make it like this? The vertical pupils on the forehead of the giant frog monster stared at the black cat in front of them. With a bang, the 10-meter-long flying insect smashed and landed in front of several monsters. The half-body seeps a lot of green mucus. Then, those human cultivators escaped. Not only that, but Vita was also killed. Moro said with a trembling voice. What? When several monsters heard it, their hearts sank. How could it be possible? 2 companions who have heard of the peak strength of the Dao realm can't kill a group of martial realm cultivators. Even being beaten like this. What a joke. Explain clearly, what the hell is going on? The giant frog monster condensed its eyes and said coldly. After a while, the monsters in the valley finally understood the cause and effect. I didn't expect those human beings to still hide such a hand. The powerful magical item that can easily break through our defenses. These guys can really stand it. Don't lament those useless things, this time it's our carelessness. First think about how to explain to Venerable. If you fail to complete the tasks assigned by Venerable, you will know the consequences. Quote. This. After the giant frog monster finished speaking, he glanced at the sluggish flying insect monster under his feet, and said nothing. In the depths of the valley, beside the muddy lake, 8 monsters of various shapes stood rigidly by the lake, without saying a word. So, how many of the ants that broke into the Gunnan Mountains were released by you? A majestic voice came. The giant frog monster lowered its head, and said carefully, Yes, Venerable, after seeing those human cultivators collapsed, we are going to deal with those humans who want to sneak into our holy pool. And Vita and Moro supervised the battle in the valley. But I didn't expect that Vita and Moro were not doing things well. Vita was beheaded by those cultivators with powerful magical item, and Moro almost died in the hands of those cultivators. Strongly ran back, told me about it, and then died. Quote. After speaking, Moro, who was breathless with only half of his body left, was placed on the ground. A cyan arm, as strong as a hill, dropped from a high altitude and grabbed the half of the corpse on the ground. The 8-armed monster opened his eyes, looked at the half of the corpse in his hand for a moment, and his palm suddenly clenched. There was a green drizzle above and below the sky, and it poured all 8 monsters on the ground. But none of the monsters dared to make extra moves, and they all said nothing. Tobias, the 8-armed monster with a height of hundreds of feet, looked down at the giant frog monster under him, and stayed on it for a long time before saying, If you run away, just run away, it doesn't matter. But since a human cultivator has come here, even if you don't see the holy pool of our race, you still need to make preparations early in order to avoid life-threatening incidents. Eden, take them down and prepare for the war. I will give you 7 days. Tomorrow, take these little guys in the valley to level the southern Moon Valley, and rush to the Kinglan region in 7 days. Both regions must be accepted. My race has been waiting for too long. Quote. Eden, the giant frog monster, heard this as if he was amnesty, and quickly responded, Master Venerable, don't worry. In 7 days, I will surely level down the southern Moon Valley. Well, go, the human being in your hand will stay. Tobias's low voice came. Yes, Eden put down the cocoon shell he was holding, and took the remaining 7 monsters behind him into a gray mist, disappearing. After a few monsters disappeared, Tobias' 100-meter-high figure kept shrinking, until he turned into the same as ordinary people, and then stopped. A twisting tentacles behind it moved lightly, and a black light shot out, falling on the cocoon shell. The black light fell on the cocoon shell. Like hot water splashed in the snow, the layers of hard cocoon filaments stretched and melted, revealing the unconscious Xiaofeng inside. Get up. Tobias looked at Xiaofeng above the ground and said in human language. As soon as the voice fell, Xiaofeng, who was unconscious on the ground, gradually opened his eyes. Where is this? What's wrong with me? After a while, Xiaofeng clutched his head and finally remembered what had happened just now. Didn't I just be eaten by that monster? I'm still alive. Ha, I'm still alive. I really didn't die. Xiaofeng looked at On's body with a surprised expression and a wild laugh. But soon, his laughter stopped abruptly, as if someone had caught his throat. It doesn't seem to be like it is, but it is. Tobias looked at the crazy human in front of him, frowned, a tentacle rushed out of his back, tightly hooped Xiaofeng's neck, and lifted it up. My patience is limited, human. 66%. Chapter 174 Heaven's Punishment. Xiaofeng panted heavily, and tightly covered his neck with his left hand. The sensation in my mind that was close to death just now kept rolling and lingering. Just now, he was about to be killed by the monster in front of him. Fortunately, at the last moment, the monster loosened the tentacles around his neck. Now, I ask, you say, hesitate, die. Tobias said, looking at Xiaofeng word by word. Cough, 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 will you let me go when I'm finished? Xiaofeng only felt a little pain in his throat and couldn't help but coughed twice before asking. Tobias glanced at Xiaofeng lightly, without speaking. Xiaofeng saw the eyes of the monster in front of him, his whole body was cold, and anger and despair appeared from behind, and finally all turned into madness. Ha, ha ha, ha ha ha. You won't let me go, are you? Xiaofeng shouted with a grim face. Don't let me live, you don't want to know anything from my mouth. Tobias stared at the crazy Xiaofeng and walked towards him step by step. Act recklessly. You, what are you doing? Don't come over, get out of the way. Xiaofeng shouted as he looked at the monster approaching him step by step. With a flutter, a dark cyan arm with knotted muscles penetrated Xiaofeng's body. A bright red heart in the thick knuckle palm twitched weakly. Xiao Feng looked at the scene in front of him, his eyes widened in disbelief, his head slowly drooping. Tobias squeezed the still twitching heart into a handful of flesh, shook his hand, and shook off the blood in his hand, and then a blue light covered Xiao Feng's body with his fingertips. Let me see in person, what secrets are hidden in you. It closed its eyes and dived into Xiao Feng's sea of consciousness, and the glaucoma on the two of them became more intense. At the same time, on the sky dome of the Gunnan Mountains, there were winds and lightning intertwined. The sky above Tobias and Xiao Feng split 100 meters wide, with golden light gleaming in the crack. The passages of Xiao Feng's past were all read and checked by Tobias. Time seems to be going backwards. The encounter with the 8 monsters was captured alive. Pass through a large array and enter the southern Moon Valley. Practice and kill weirdness. Slowly, time returned to the beginning. Xiao Feng appeared in a mountain gate out of thin air, his eyes blank. This is... Tobias was shocked when he watched Xiao Feng's arrival in the star realm. In the sky at this time, the endless gang wind became more and more violent, forming a vortex of thousands of meters long and wide above the two of them. The sound of thunder became more and more violent, and the explosion of thunder resounded throughout the entire Gunnan mountain range. With a solemn expression, Tobias continued to look forward to Xiao Feng's memory with great effort, but a light curtain made up of colorful glow in Xiao Feng's soul stood firmly in front of Tobias' consciousness. Make it impossible to move forward. Tobias' divine sense turned into a sharp blade to the sky, violently hitting this colorful light curtain. In the illusory sea of consciousness, there was a clang, clang, and clang bell. This human being is very wrong. How did he suddenly appear in this world? Tobias's doubts became more and more serious, and it slammed into the light curtain again and again. Gradually, a slight crack appeared on the colorful light curtain, and Xiao Feng's sea of consciousness suddenly began to falter, showing signs of disappearance. Tobias' consciousness stood in front of the half-human-sized hole that was knocked out by it, and stepped forward. But when it was about to step into the back of this light curtain with one foot, there was a strong sense of crisis in its heart. What's the matter? I actually have a feeling in the dark. As long as I take this step, there will be great horror. Tobias looked uncertain, and was only one step short of being able to step into this light curtain, but it was shaking all over at the moment but couldn't take this last step. Haven't waited for it to make a decision. Outside world. It and the top of Xiao Feng's head exploded directly towards it. Click. The dark purple thunder slammed on Tobias, who was standing still, with a roar. When it received a powerful attack from outside, its consciousness was suddenly pulled back into his mind from Xiao Feng's body. Then it flew upside down over the whole body. The body was full of scorched black, and the muscle tissue wriggling like a worm under the skin was exposed. At that time, a thunderbolt caused it to suffer a lot of injuries. Tobias, who was awake, let out a painful growl. In the Gunnan mountain range, millions of strangely looked at the huge vortex above the sky and the deep purple thunder pulp surging, their faces shivering with fear. In the valley, the 8 realm monsters who cleaned the battlefield looked at the vast wind vortex that envelops the Gunnan mountain range and the deafening roar deep in the valley, with unbelievable faces. The 8 monsters who found something wrong turned and rushed towards the depths of the valley. Get out! A roar came from the depths of the valley, stopping the 8 great realm monster who wanted to check the situation. Several monsters looked at the giant frog monster, their expressions uncertain. Eden, what's wrong with Venerable, and what happened to this? They raised their heads and asked the vortex circling in the sky. Eden shook his head. I don't know, but since Venerable won't let me wait, let's wait here. If Venerable can't handle these things, we will die if we go. After speaking, all the 8 monsters were silent. Deep in the valley, beside the gray lake. The monster with 8 arms and 2 feet, facing the dignified wind swept down like blades from the sky, looked solemn. The body skyrocketed steadily, turning into 100 feet tall in the blink of an eye. Roared at the sky. There are countless thick black tentacles behind, facing the wind and falling thunder that descended from the sky. The entire Gunnan mountain range was trembling, and the sound of collision resounding through the sky continued to be heard. It took a full hour before it gradually stopped. Tobias's huge body, which is 100 feet high, was full of scars. It was panting heavily, and the thousands of ferocious tentacles behind it were not a single one, and the roots were broken. As the wind vortex in the sky gradually dissipated, the deep purple thunder light was also hidden in the sky, and Tobias fell weakly to the ground with a bang. Consciousness also gradually blurred. At the last moment when it was still awake, a palm-sized peristalsis tissue full of green mucus split into its body. It fell on Xiaofeng, who was lying on the ground, and then there was a loud roar from Xiaofeng's body. Tobias saw this scene. His body kept shrinking, and he passed out completely in a coma. The next day, Tobias opened his eyes and looked at Xiaofeng, who was now sober, who was guarded by two monsters. He shook his head and slowly stood up. Seeing it wake up, Eden and the other monsters were worried. Master Venerable, yesterday was. Tobias waved his hand. Stop talking about this matter. Then it raised its head and looked at the sky above it, trying to recall everything it saw in Xiaofeng's memory yesterday, but it still couldn't remember exactly what it saw. It looked at the sky and let out a sneer, huh. Then he looked at the giant frog monster beside him and said, immediately send troops to level down this southern moon valley. 67%. Chapter 175. Breakthrough, Gold Core Realm. Under the leadership of the 8 sacred monsters, 1,000,000 weirdness in the Gunnan Mountain range meets 800,000 weirdness outside. 100 and 800,000 strangers were dispatched together to send troops to the Shuiyan Palace, where the Cultivator Alliance is located. At this moment, in the Shuiyan Palace, the 100 Sect Alliance of the Kanglan region and the sect leaders of the various gates of the southern Moon Valley gathered together. Is it clear? Well, a large number of weirdness from 3,000 miles away attacked the Shuiyan Palace where I was waiting. How weird. The count is endless, and the number is roughly calculated. It is more than twice as weird as I waited to fight before. The news is true. True. In the Great Hall of the Sect, more than 200 people are silent. Weird's number of troops dispatched this time was twice the number they had fought before. I don't know. Every time their 600,000 cultivator army started a battle, the number of strangers on the opposite side was 700,000 to 800,000. Then the weird army they are going to face this time, isn't it? At least, there are at least 1.7 to 800,000 in number. And recently, in order to delay the time and slow down the weird breeding, they have killed at least more than 300,000 weirs. Even so, are there so many? There was dead silence in the Great Hall. After a while, someone couldn't sit still, and said angrily, I said it a long time ago, I can't wait any longer, I can't wait any longer. Those ghosts can't be killed at all. If they don't get rid of their stronghold soon, it will be the result now. Okay now. Quote. As soon as this remark came out, a large number of people's comments sounded. It's more than 1.8 million weird, the number is more than 3 times that of mine, how good is this? Oh, it would be nice if we sent troops in time to attack weird strongholds. With the strength of our weight, we could have done our work in the first place. HMPH, I don't make preparations early, and I have to delay time. No matter how I wait, how can I cope with so many weirdness? I think it's better to prepare for destruction early. Snapped. Ji Ning slapped a palm on the ebony wooden table in front of him, angrily. Zhou Yuan, Yin Yu, what do you two mean by saying this? Is there any point in complaining about this now? With this energy, it is better to think about how to solve the weirdness that is about to hit the door. Quote. After finishing talking, he glanced at the direction of the Nanyu Valley cultivator with a displeased expression. The meaning was very clear. Although I'm talking about people from the Kanglan Domain Alliance, you people from the Southern Moon Valley must also take care of your own mouth. It was already a taboo to complain about our Kanglan Domain Alliance's decision just now. But Ji Ning did not expect that the Kanglan Domain Alliance had a problem first. Just now I complained that Ji Ning had not sent troops in advance, and attacked the 2 sect leaders, a man and a woman, who had attacked the weird stronghold, and stared at Ji Ning. Wearing a red dress, Yin Yu looked very young, but was already a 6th-rank sect leader, and said with a bad tone. It doesn't make sense to say this. If you had listened to the advice I waited for and sent troops as soon as possible, there would be things now, procrastinating. Just to wait for that little kid, what it is like now. Quote. Yin Yu, speak carefully. Several people beside the woman kindly reminded. Before the war, it was a big crime to argue with the leader. Several friends beside her were also afraid that Yin Yu would be angry for a while. They quickly dissuaded Yin Yu and told her to stop talking nonsense. Ji Ning sat on the chair and looked at her. His eyes were a little cold, and he didn't speak. Yin Yu frowned, stood up from the chair angrily. I was telling the truth. I didn't agree to delay the meeting at the previous meeting. It was you and the Qian Yuanzong sect leader Li Fan who ignored it. Everyone wants to forcefully put pressure, so that everyone has to listen to your orders. But now, the facts are in front of us. Wrong is wrong. There is also Li Fan, what can't be said. It's him who asked me to wait for the Kanglan region cultivator to lead the elites to the southern Moon Valley region to rush to the South Moon Valley. And until now, when I came here to fight the endless weirdness, I didn't know how many disciples were killed or injured. When everyone saw their disciples die in front of them, you felt your conscience and said, "Don't you feel distressed?" But he, for more than 10 days, has been hiding in the Kanglan region for a while, let us fight to death, but he has not even shown his face. Still gesticulating in the distance, why is this kind of person worthy of being the leader of our Kanglan region? Even if his strength is high, I am not convinced. Quote. Every time she said something, the expression of Sect leader of Kanglan domain was bleak, although Yin Yu said this because of anger. But it is not unreasonable. A kid with no full hair, relying on his high strength, can command them to fight for life and death in the front, and make some wrong decisions in the back. The fighter was delayed. I have never been to the front line, and I don't know the situation of the battle. I just commanded blindly. In addition, every one of my disciples was killed and injured in the battle these days, so no one can feel grievances in his heart. Besides, they are about to face a life and death crisis right now, and the anger that has been suppressed in the big guy's heart can hardly be suppressed. All TM are dying. Who cares if your leader is not the leader? Is the leader of Li Fan really dealing with that weird force hidden in the Kanglan domain? Isn't he deliberately making an excuse not to show up? I don't know who it was, muttered a little, as if it was on everyone's mind, and everyone had a bit of suspicion on their faces. We can't let things go on like this, and the pre-war internal strife will be even more impossible to fight. Ji Ning sighed in his heart, and stood up without changing his expression. Seeing the people whose complexion changed, they said in a deep voice, the hidden crisis in the Kanglan region was discovered by Li Fan and I. The picture on the photo mirror has been seen by each of you. I have forgotten all about how I fought for a few days. Don't you even believe me in the facts that you saw on the photo mirror with your own eyes? The previous decision not to send troops was also made by everyone. More than 60% of the 100 sect leaders supported this decision. Now that things are not going well, do you plan to push all the responsibilities out? Quote. Who knows if the content on the photo mirror was self-directed and acted by him? Someone in the crowd whispered. However, Ji Ning didn't seem to hear, and continued to speak. You have also read the previous message from the leader. You will be able to get here in a few days. Keep the Shuiyan Palace well these days and stick to it. The victory will definitely be ours. Yin Yu, your affairs, wait for the crisis to pass, and then deal with it. Now you are swallowing complaints in your stomach, disturbing the military's mind before the war, and questioning the leader. You know what the end is. Go back quickly, assemble, and prepare for battle. Quote. Looking at Yin Yu, who was unhappy, as if there was still a mouthful, Ji Ning ignored her. This person didn't know whether she was really stupid or fake. He disturbed the military's morale before the war, and then opened his mouth to crack down on morale and split people's minds. Even if you feel dissatisfied, or feel uneasy and desperate in the face of the millions of weird ones, this kind of thing shouldn't be put in front of everyone. The people in the southern Moon Valley are still there. This Yin Yu, wait for Li Fan to come back and let him take care of it himself. He is too lazy to take care of it. Besides, this quarrel must be stopped, otherwise they will be messed up before the war starts. Not to mention that they will die for 7 or 8 days in front of the 1.8 million weirdness. An hour later, an army of 600,000 cultivators, ready to go, stood in the sect formation at the foot of Shuiyan Palace in an orderly and calm complexion. In this battle, they must rely on geographical advantages and formation to fight, and avoid direct contact with millions of weird soldiers, so that they can hold on to the situation where there is such a big gap between the number of enemies and ourselves. At this time, 50 miles away, a rumbling, deafening and weird neighing sound reached the ears of the cultivator army, making everyone uneasy. Slowly, the full picture of the weird army finally appeared in front of everyone. Wu Qian was unable to see his appearance, and his body was shrouded in a thick gray mist running on the earth. From the highest position 100 meters above these strange heads, there was a faintly disgusting breath coming from the heart. In the half-empty space, there are almost transparent ripples, as if there are swimming fish swimming in the air, without a trace. The wind was gusty and the white mist was vast. The two incompatible forces finally collided together. Time is fleeting. 4 days later. In the land of extreme fire, that to the thread-shaped black mountain range, wind and thunder were violent, and the wind roared. The scorching magma in the mountain continued to roll, boiling like boiling hot water. Strips of magma turned into waves covering the sky, gushing out from the mountain, turning everything around the mountain to ashes. Suddenly, a golden orb from the magma soared out of the sky, shining brightly, and then a figure followed. He was naked and looked like a burning red iron. Brother Huang, the master is out. At the foot of the mountain of extreme fire, a black-striped fierce tiger shook his furry head when he saw this figure in the distance. Speaking of words, said to a yellow bird lying on its head. After these few days of getting along, the name Hai snake bird called Fei snake bird has changed from an adult to Huang Jie, as if dot has become a standard dogleg. Love whoever, don't bother me, just fell asleep. Xiao Huang turned his head aside, rubbed his own feather, and continued to fall asleep. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Xiao Huang nestled on the head of the black tiger, suddenly jumped up. What did you say, Xiao He? Hearing Xiao Huang called it Xiao He, Haiwenhu's big face was a little unhappy, but he didn't dare to refute it. The urn said with an annoying voice, the master has changed a lot after leaving the customs, look at brother Huang. Xiao Huang hurriedly looked up to the top of the mountain. After seeing the familiar figure, he blinked and nodded secretly. Well, the changes are indeed great. It turns out that after the breakthrough of human beings, they don't wear clothes. Isn't that unique? But it's quite white. Quote, in the midair, Li Fan closed his eyes and sat in the air. In front of him is a golden pill that is completely natural and holds thousands of brilliance. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes, and a flawless golden pill was swallowed in his mouth. Feeling the 10 times thicker Junyuan inside, Li Fan showed a smile on his face. Although there were some small accidents when guiding the Tianhuayan to temper the true essence in the body and condense the gold core, it finally succeeded, yes, haha. Thinking of the pain of guiding Tianhuayan into the body to temper himself in the magma, he couldn't help shaking his body as tough as he was. And not only that, at the last moment when he was about to become a pill, after he had completely absorbed the power of the Beizu elixir, the true essence in his body suddenly became disordered, uncontrollably rushing towards the heart in his body, almost causing his heart to burst. Make him think he wants chi deviation. Fortunately, at the last moment, after 90% of his true essence was lost, the true essence rushing to his heart slowly stabilized, and his heart seemed to be more crystal clear. But he didn't pay too much attention to this matter. After successfully entering the gold core state, Li Fan was happy in his heart, smiled lightly, and clicked on the Own Property panel. Get ready to see what kind of talent you have awakened this time with the most difficult and dangerous heavenly pill method. Properties panel. Li Fan, Sect leader of Qian Yuanzong realm, 6th floor of Gold Core realm. Cultivation technique. Celestial Soul Arctic Fairy Code. Martial skill. Point Kang Knife, Profound Thunder Step, 1000 Illusory Demon Palm. Spells. Soul Soil Thorn, Soul Soil Shield. Supernatural powers. Master the 5 Thunders, Qianyuan Shuji. Talented supernatural powers. Breaking the illusion of the pupil 8th rank. Bloodline talent. Immortal body. Sect rank. 5th rank. Indestructible immortal body. Continuously temper your body's constitution with the spiritual blood in your body. Gradually ascension changes your body's constitution, enhances the power of the physical body. Realm is enough for Wanfa to be invaded and immortal. Li Fan carefully considered the explanation given by the system, frowning slightly. Originally, he thought that the bloodline talent of this awakening could bring him a powerful attacking ability. Unexpectedly, it was indeed said that it was a bloodline body, and it was not a bloodline body, and it did not have much effect in a short time. Spirit blood in the body, what is this? Li Fan was shocked when he thought of this. Looking inside himself, his mind swept across his heart. I saw the surface of his heart. When the true essence swept across his body, the dense rune patterns appeared on it. With each beating of the heart, a drop of dark golden blood will turn into a cluster of blood mist and be contained in his blood. This is the spiritual blood, the system says. Li Fan carefully felt the changes that the tiny dark gold blood had brought him into his body. Sure enough, the strength of the physical body is increasing at a slow rate, and, while this spiritual blood is strengthening my body, there is also a ray of mysterious power covering my skin, muscles, bones, internal organs, and meridians. Wanfa doesn't invade. 10,000 strands are immortal, so big. I don't know if I can achieve this effect if my whole body is completely transformed by spiritual blood. Quote. Li Fan nodded, very satisfied with his awakening talent. This talent gave him a brand new physique, the immortal body. And it can slowly strengthen his physical body and bring him Wanfa's ability to make changes. Although it is not very effective now, I believe that his physical strength will be greatly improved after a period of time. When he was subduing Xiao Huang, he was still worried about how fragile his body was compared to demonic beasts. But now, there is no need to worry. According to the transformation of his physical body by the spiritual blood secreted by the heart, it is estimated that a year later, without using half of the true essence, he can resist the attack of the original aura Xiao Huang with his physical body without being injured. The 8 realms of Taoism. Wen Dao, Ming Guang, Aura, Ming Dao, Divine Movement, Dissolution, He Dao, and Dao. With only 1 year of accumulation, demonic beasts, who can compete with the strength of the aura realm only with their physical bodies, are immortal and terrifying. And because the 6th rank elixir of 9 sequence medicine pill was too powerful, after Li Fan condensed the gold core, realm was directly pushed to the 6th tier level of the gold core by this 6th rank elixir. Strength greatly increased. But after all, because realm ascension is too fast, the real essence and realm in the body are still a little vain, and they need to be polished and consolidated. Just right, it's time to solve the hidden danger of the Kanglan region. After this battle is over, we have to rush to the southern Moon Valley as soon as possible. 1 day should be enough to deal with those guys. And the group of people in the league shouldn't be able to sit still now. Quote. Li Fan shook his head and told Ji Ning about the exit and the upcoming arrival in the southern Moon Valley. Walking against the wind, he came to the 2 demonic beasts at the foot of the mountain. 67%. Chapter 176. 1 person is enough. Li Fan, who fell on the ground, looked at the 2 demonic beasts who had been waiting for him for a long time under the mountain, and said with a smile, Xiao Huang, let's go. Xiao Huang, Xiao He. The 2 demonic beasts were motionless, staring at Li Fan fiercely. Xiao Huang didn't speak, his wings flashed, and a transparent water mirror stood in front of Li Fan. At first, Li Fan was still confused. He didn't know what happened to the 2 demonic beasts, but when he looked in the mirror, his face turned red. Li Fan. There was a sound of dressing. Li Fan finally felt a lot warmer. I said that when I was in the sky, I always felt chilly, and I forgot that the ice jade orb consumed up the spirit power under the magma. Live in clothes. Cough cough. Let's go, take me to the stronghold of those monsters in the Kanglan domain. Li Fan pretended that nothing happened, touched the burnt-out bald head of On, and felt himself after entering the gold core realm. The surging Junyuan inside his body exclaimed, I always feel that this is the hairstyle of the strong. This time, when he heard what he said, Xiao Huang cried and flew high to the southeast. The black-striped fierce tiger lay on the ground obediently and looked at Li Fan. Li Fan smiled, touched its furry tiger's head, shook his head, and said, this time you just stay with me and Xiao Huang. After finishing speaking, the black-striped fierce tiger still didn't understand what it meant. Li Fan stepped on the void, Yukong flew away, his clothes fluttered. Seeing Li Fan going away, the black-striped fierce tiger had a grievance, and immediately ran on the ground with a scream, and followed. After entering the gold core state, Li Fan's true essence has a greater ascension than before, both in quantity and quality, and now he can fly in the air for a long time. And the speed of flight is not much lower than Xiao Huang of Ming Dao realm. This is still on the premise that he has not used Qianyuan Shuji's magical powers, otherwise the speed will be faster. There was nothing to say all the way. 3 hours later, Xiao Huang at the front stopped, and Li Fan also stopped, looking at a plain and unnamed mountain ahead. The mountains are densely covered with green forests, the streams are gurgling, peaceful and quiet. This is the stronghold of those monsters. Li Fan asked suspiciously, looking at the misty mountains in front of him, without seeing any abnormalities. Since regaining his original appearance, Xiao Huang has taken care of his own feathers. First, he combed the rough feathers on his body before speaking. Yes, master, don't you see that there are no waves at all here, and even the disgusting fog is very rare, but there is no magic in it. Is it formation? Li Fan said as he opened his mouth. While there was light in the depths of his eyes, he once again looked at this small unknown mountain range. After running the sacred pupil, the mountain forest in front of him finally revealed its true face in front of Li Fan's eyes. Outside of the mountains, there is no change, but the mountains are full of bones and gloomy winds. The dense fog dyed the entire mountain range gray. In the deepest part of the mountain, demonic beasts stood motionless on the ground, and dozens of monsters of various shapes gathered together, as if they were discussing something. Thinking of this is what Xiao Huang said. Those saint monsters that are quietly lurking behind and preparing to make ghosts are all monsters with the strength of the Dao realm, and they are not worth mentioning to him now. However, he did not see that there was a powerful monster in it that seemed to have suppressed Xiao Huang with a single move. His eyes moved outward from the depths of the mountains. Li Fan's eyes continued to stare at the mountains in front of him. This white bone is not like a human bone. It is from demonic beasts. He looked away, and Li Fan's eyes penetrated the ground with white light. Finally, in the depths of the earth, I saw a large block of pitch black and deep stone slabs engraved with the twisted symbols he had seen before. It seems that this is the foundation of the formation that hides the abnormality of this mountain range from the outside world. After understanding the anomaly in this mountain range, Li Fan slowly withdrew his gaze. At this moment, there was a cloud of smoke in the distance, sand and rocks everywhere, and there seemed to be something galloping. After a while, the dust dissipated, and a big black tiger stopped in front of Li Fan and Xiao Huang. The tiger's mouth opened wide, panting heavily. These two guys are flying so fast, don't you know if you wait for me? I'm exhausted. Haiwan Huahu was full of resentment. Xiao Huang glanced at it, eyes full of disgust. Li Fan smiled and patted its head, let alone that it feels really good. Seeing that the black-striped fierce tiger has arrived, Li Fan didn't intend to waste time anymore. Let's go, let's meet these guys. Xiao Huang looked at Li Fan and said, Master, don't you call them over? No, the two of us are enough. Li Fan obviously knew that Xiao Huang was talking about the demonic beasts he had subdued. The 20 or so demonic beasts were all called back to the gate of Qianyuanzong's guarding the mountain before heading to the land of extreme fire. It would be too troublesome to toss in the past now. He took a look at the mountain range just now, and already saw how many enemies there are in it. This Saint Clan monster is so strange that he can clean it up by himself, and it doesn't need to be so troublesome. The only thing to worry about was the monster who didn't know how strong he was, and easily suppressed Xiao Huang. Thinking of this, Li Fan suddenly recalled the last words of the monster who killed Qian Yuanzong while he was not in the Redridge Stone Forest. Is there any connection between that monster and this monster that secretly engages in ghosts in the Kanglan domain? With a hint of doubt, Li Fan passed through the illusion outside the nameless mountain range and entered it. In the deepest part of the mountain range, among a forest of stone pillars, black mists that are not visible are gathered together, making strange screams. Is there no news from Master Venerable? I can't wait. I really want to quickly conquer this area and kill all these human cultivators. What's the hurry? Master Venerable didn't order us to do it. There must be other considerations, but yesterday Master Venerable said that we should be prepared. There is already a war on your side. That's good, haha, it seems it's almost time for us to make a move. Since thousands of years ago, those guys outside the sky lowered their power and suppressed our race's erosion of this star realm. Otherwise, how could the humans here have been struggling for so long? Since mentioning the events thousands of years ago, these saint monsters have stopped speaking, and they have been silent after tacit understanding, whether it is anger or fear. Suddenly, many monsters turned their heads and their expressions changed drastically, looking out of the mountain. Someone broke in. It's moving in our direction, very fast. Tisk tusk, this person is really unlucky. We can still be strayed in by him when we hide in such a remote place. We are about to go to war with those human cultivators. Today we just took this guy to sacrifice the flag and hum. 30 groups of black mist-shrouded figures stood quietly in this ridge, waiting for the unlucky guy to come to the door. 67%. Chapter 177. One person, one bird, one tiger, slowly pushed aside the mist and saw the monster that had been waiting for a long time in the deepest part of the mountain. Li Fan's face was calm. From the moment he stepped into this mountain range, Li Fan discovered the quiet operation of the formation here, and knew in his heart that this was sending a message to the monsters inside. It can be stopped, but it is not necessary. Li Fan believes that monsters with higher eyes will not run. Besides, they can't run away if they want to. With Qian Yuan Shudi's magical powers in his hands, no one can escape under his hands. Those figures shrouded in the black mist were not surprised to see Li Fan and his party. On the contrary, they were relieved. Originally, when they knew that someone had entered this mountain range and went straight to them, they thought that the cultivator should not be weak, it should have a few brushes. Unexpectedly, after seeing Li Fan, I realized that this person didn't show any Dao rhyme, and his spirit power fluctuates very little. It seems to be a small cultivator with a low realm in the martial realm. Is this unclear? As for the birds and tigers around this human being, they feel a slight threat from them, and they should have Dao realm strength. However, no matter what they are here, there are more than 500 demonic beasts with Dao realm strength alone, which is not to be feared at all. After Li Fan and his party appeared, the controlled demonic beasts behind the monsters in the black mist and the thousands of invisible fog souls in the mountains quietly surrounded them. Seeing no movement in front of him, it seems like a human being frightened and stupefied. A group of monsters said sarcastically, "Human, how did you find this place and what did you do here? Tell me in detail, it will make you die faster, haha." Li Fan looked at the monster in front of him that was covered by black mist, but he had already identified his true body and strength, and smiled, "Wait for a while before you can survive this question." As soon as the voice fell, Li Fan flicked his fingertips, and a cyan thunder fell from the sky and fell into the empty space behind him. When the thunder came down, it seemed to hear thousands of stern sounds in the dimness. A familiar system beep came from Li Fan's ear. Ding! Congratulations to Sect leader for slaying the fog soul and gaining a 100-fold increase and gaining heavenly Dao merit 100. Ding! Congratulations to Sect leader for slaying the fog soul and gaining a 100-fold increase and gaining heavenly Dao merit 100. As soon as the Eastern Liver Palace Muley, which had mastered the 5 thunders, fell, Wanji secretly lurked and prepared to sneak attack his mist soul, all annihilated, and provided him with 1,000,000 points of merit. It's been a long time, I haven't had such a big gain. Looking at the heavenly Dao merit points of his system interface, he quickly ascension, and slowly became more abundant. Li Fan let out a sigh. Sometimes heavenly Dao's merits are so easy to come by, which is great. Opposite, 30 black mist-shrouded monsters were stunned, looking at the scene in front of them, thinking of the cyan thunder that contained the vastness of the sky just now. All of them were stupid. This is a martial arts cultivator. What a joke, this is the murderer who came to kill them. Under a single strike, more than 10,000 misty souls were wiped out, which really scared these monsters who heard the power of the Dao realm. Li Fan obviously didn't have the thought of chatting with them. The fixing thunder knife appeared out of thin air in his hand. Xiao Huang, Xiao He, guard this place, don't let any of them run away. Li Fan stared closely at the dozens of monsters in front of him, as if looking at a lot of heavenly Dao merits, his eyes hot. Obviously, he didn't intend to let the 2 demonic beasts around him take action. After entering the Gold Core realm, Li Fan only knew that he was much stronger than in the foundation building realm, but he couldn't estimate how much stronger he was. It happened to be this time to deal with these holy monsters in the Kingland domain. Just practice your hands. Yeah, Xiao Huang and Xiao He beside Li Fan nodded their heads, and shredded some of the demonic beasts that surrounded them. They came outside the mountain and stood quietly. Master, we have surrounded them, don't worry. Xiao Huang's clear voice came. 30 peak monsters in the distance heard the Dao realm, grinning, not knowing what to say. Go there together with you too, even if it surrounds us. There is something wrong with this cultivator. Let's proceed carefully and go together. Good. After a few secret transmissions, 30 monsters and more than 500 demonic beasts around Li Fan swarmed, and the fierce attack instantly drowned Li Fan. Li Fan looked at the oncoming fierce offensive with a calm expression. He just gently stroked the ice-cold blade of Fei Xinglei Guang knife, and then his wrist fluttered like a phantom, forming a pure land 3 feet in front of him. All the offensives were blocked, and Li Fan's figure turned into a misty blue smoke, and he moved with his long sword that shone coldly. A jet-black claw leaned towards Li Fan. A cold light flashed, and a bloodline emerged from the head of a leopard-shaped demonic beast with sharp claws and fell to the ground. In the distance, a few worm-like monsters, with their tiny hairs constantly twisting, condensed in the air, a ball of red light hovering on Li Fan's head, constantly smashing them down. Go! With a low drink, thick and sharp stone thorns rose from the ground, constantly colliding with the red-ons in the air. There was a roar. Blocking the overhead attack, Li Fan turned and rushed to the dense group of demonic beasts. Take these guys out first. With this idea in mind, Li Fan directly crashed into the demonic beasts group. The long knife flew up and down, and the sword vigorously. In every second and every wave, more than a dozen demonic beasts of the Taoist realm fell in his hands. As for those saint monsters who were left behind by Li Fan, seeing Li Fan's actions, they were too anxious. When he kills all the demonic beasts, isn't it our turn to wait? No, let's go together and kill him. A monster with 6 spider claws behind the elder, quietly approaching Li Fan in the hidden fog. Just when Li Fan slashed at the serpentine demonic beasts in front of him, the monster hidden in the mist, the 6 sharp spider legs behind it all stabbed Li Fan's body. The sharp claws made the sound of breaking through the air, and the speed was extremely fast. He was about to pierce Li Fan's heart and head immediately, but was blocked by a sudden rising stone wall. Boom! 6 sharp spider legs stabbed on the stone wall, and the generous spiritual earth shield condensed by Li Fan collapsed suddenly, bringing up a cloud of dust. The blade-like monster spider's legs were cast unabated, and they continued to move forward without touching anything. It's awful. The monster felt that its own attack was lost, and felt bad in his heart. Countless tiny holes appeared on the dark skin in a hurry, and countless black mucus shot out from the thousands of holes like sharp arrows in all directions. Then this was the spider-legged monster hurriedly looking for Li Fan's figure. A crackling sound came from the top of its head. I saw Li Fan, who was covered in 3-color thunder light, stepped on the void, and a body of thunder light melted countless black mucus, and half of it did not fall on Li Fan. Are you looking for me? The cold voice was accompanied by the cold long knife, and at the same time ran towards the spider-legged monster. 68%. Chapter 178. The 3-color thunder wrapped around his body, and Li Fan slashed down with the force of the wind and thunder. Laugh. The dangling long knife was not hindered in the slightest, and fell straight to the ground from top to bottom. The spider-legged monster in front of him was split into two halves. A large amount of black blood shot out and spilled all over the floor. This scene was reflected in the eyes of other monsters, scaring them to heartbreak. Li Fan heard the familiar sound of the merits, and continued to move forward with his knife. Demonic beasts roared and rushed towards him. He did not hesitate, and the long knife in his hand flew up and down, and countless fishy blood soaked the ground, staining the black soil under his feet red. In a quarter of an hour, all 500 demonic beasts were awarded the first prize. Tick, tick. The scarlet blood followed the slender blade of Faxing Liguang knife, dripping to the ground. The stone forest, noisy just now because of the roar of hundreds of demonic beasts, suddenly fell silent. The remaining monsters looked at Li Fan silently, and did not dare to step forward. Killing 500 demonic beasts with 1 sword per person is as simple as cutting melons and vegetables. Those demonic beasts are not some kind of waste that is lost in the ordinary fog, each is a real realm strength. 500 demonic beasts swarmed them, and they were also fleeing, but now only 1 person, half a quarter of an hour's work will kill them all. This makes them completely lost the heart to fight, and now if they can, they just want to run. Run as far as you can. Li Fan's green robe is as new, without a drop of blood. He felt the surging true essence in his body and smiled. In the previous battle, only less than 20% of the true essence was consumed. It seems that after the breakthrough foundation building, the quality of the true essence in this body has really changed a lot, and the endurance of the battle has also been improved a lot. After thinking about it, Li Fan raised his eyes to look at the 29 trembling monsters in front of him, showing their white teeth, and walked towards them step by step. In the southern Moon Valley, deep in the Gunnan Mountains, a tall figure sits in front of the gray lake, looking at the hideous and weird ones that are constantly crawling out of the lake, with a calm expression. Master Venerable, during the 5-day battle between our race and the cultivators in the southern Moon Valley, 200,000 enemies were killed. Among them, all sects in the southern Moon Valley have been removed, and more than 1 million cultivators have been killed. Except for those cultivators on the side of Shuiyan Palace, who are still struggling to death, this southern Moon Valley has been completely returned to my race, and there is no resistance. Quote. Tobias was surprised and unhappy, and responded indifferently. When will the group of cultivators in Shuiyan Palace get rid of it? Hearing Tobias' words, Eden replied with his head down and respectfully. It is estimated that there will be in 3 days, the cultivator over there will be completely wiped out by my clan. Eden finished speaking, and the huge head dropped lower. 3 days. Tobias took a deep look at the respectful Eden in front of him. It's too slow, and the time is almost there. I will go there myself. My lord, you are not sitting in the holy pond. The current southern Moon Valley region is just lingering, no one can threaten the holy pond. After a while, you go to Kanglan region, find Widow, and tell it to do it. Quote. Yes. After speaking, Tobias stood up. Beizong's body seemed to be taller than the sky, and stepped out of the Gunnan Mountains. First turn the land of the 2 domains into the foundation of our race and continue to expand the holy pool. In less than 100 years, the celestial power that disgusts our race should be completely wiped out in all parts of the star realm. Thinking of this, there was a chilling smile on Tobias's hideous face. With a flutter, the last monster in front of Li Fan fell to the ground and turned into a plume of black smoke and disappeared. Ding! Congratulations to Sect leader for killing the weird and gaining a hundredfold increase and gaining heavenly Tao merit 10,000. The monsters that claim to be saints are no different from the weird ones under ordinary Taoism in the system's prompts. They are all the same name. And according to the news that Li Fan had just received from those monsters, these monsters also gradually gained the ability to speak out after they gradually ascension from the ordinary and weird to the realm. According to what they said, they can only be regarded as infancy among human beings under the Tao realm, and only after they have truly grown to the inscription pattern realm can they be regarded as a member of the recognized saints. Regarding the realm strength of these weird sages, they have a unique system of division. The ghost realm is the weirdness under the Tao realm. There is not much distinction between this realm, it's just one realm. The inscription pattern corresponds to the Taoist realm in the human cultivator. And based on the weird mouths he killed just now, he also knew the strength of the venerable in their mouths that had been hiding behind them. The realm of Kanara, corresponding to the fifth realm of the realm divine movement realm, according to realm, is even higher than Xiao Huang's strength after a hundredfold increase. According to the situation after he reached the gold core state, he felt that he would not be weaker than Xiao Huang, and he really played hands. Xiao Huang should not be his opponent who mastered 2 magical powers and ascension once broke the sacred pupil. But what is the difference between him and the guy named Tobias? Li Fan also doesn't know. However, he is not particularly concerned about these things. What kind of strength he is facing, whether he can match it or not, has to be really tried to know. His own practice system is different from the current cultivator. How to compare? Only after fighting against each other can we see the difference. Of course, in a realm like him now, facing the enemy, he can tell if the opponent's strength can be tried, or he can only run quickly. He wasn't a fool either. He could clearly see the strength of the opposite realm at a glance, and he had to rush up to find his own death. Li Fan knew almost everything he could understand, and he also knew the enemy's realm and whereabouts. Now the Kanglin region has no worries, it is time to go to the southern Moon Valley region to solve the biggest problem. Li Fan just wanted to speak and call the 2 demonic beasts, Xiao Huang and Xiao He, who were still standing in the distance. But it seemed that something suddenly occurred to him, and he paused for a while. Mind sinking into the system interface, Li Fan looked at the more than 1.4 million heavenly Tao merit points, and left a daze for a while. This is the first time he has so many merit points. At the beginning, an Oriental Liver Palace Wood Thunder came to this mountain range and killed thousands of fog souls, and after the increase, it gave him 1,000,000 points of merit. One of the 30 inscription patterns behind the weird state provided him with 10,000 points of merit, which would add up to 1.3 million. For the last 100,000, Li Fan thought for a while, seeing the increasing number of merit points in the lower right corner of the system interface, and he knew it clearly. This should be brought to him by the 300 Qian Yuanzong disciples in Nanyu Valley region by killing the weirdness. He can get 100-fold merit even if the disciple kills weird disciples. This is one reason why he makes every effort to cultivate his disciples even if he takes out a large number of spirit stones and consumes the merits. 68%. Chapter 179 Consummation of 5 Thunder Supernatural Powers. With so many merits, my mastery of the 5 Thunder Supernatural Powers, the last 2 Golden Thunder methods and the Sea Thunder method, should also be completed. The 600,000 merits disappeared in an instant, and Li Fan's hand had 2 extra 5 elements spirit orbs exuding pure and rich water spirit power and golden spirit power. Holding the 2 5-element spirit orbs in his hand, Li Fan felt that the pure 5 internal organs of wood, fire, and earth in his body began to churn, as if cheering. Rich water spirit power and golden spirit power continued to pour into Li Fan's body spontaneously, and merge with the other 3 powers, endlessly running. I didn't expect the 5 elements to gather and nourish the 5 internal organs so much faster. A smile appeared at the corner of Li Fan's mouth. This is far from what he expected. Originally, he had cultivated a thunder method before, even with the help of the top-grade 5-element spirit orb, it would take 2 or 3 hours. Originally exchanged these 2 spirit orbs, he planned to slowly fill up his own to master the law of the 5 thunders in the past few days. But according to the current situation, I am afraid that within a long time, he can master the remaining 2 thunder magics of the 5 thunder supernatural powers, which is completely unexpected. Fortunately, it has been almost half a year since I first obtained this magical power, and finally I can see how powerful the 5 thunder magical powers are. Allow the two spirit powers of the two spirit orbs to continuously flow into the body on their own and merge with the other three powers. Li Fan took out 3,000 miles shuttle talisman, took Xiao Huang and Xiao He into the void and disappeared. Outside the gate of Qianyuanzong Mountain, Li Fan, Xiao Huang, and Xiao He suddenly appeared. Li Fan didn't rush to the southern Moon Valley in the first time. Instead, he planned to return to Qianyuanzong first and bring demonic beasts, who were placed in Qianyuanzong's 20 conquerors, onto the battlefield. On the other hand, the secret realm of the Tai time inside the door is 10 to 1 with the outside time, which can greatly shorten the integration time of his 5 elements. Called out all the demonic beasts inside the door and let them wait outside. Li Fan stepped into the secret realm of Tai time. After entering the secret realm, Li Fan didn't feel any discomfort, but there was very little spirit power in it. After all, it was a small world of its own. If someone wants to practice normally in it, he still needs to bring in spirit stones himself and absorb the spirit power among the spirit stones to practice. However, Li Fan doesn't need it. His purpose is not to come to closed-door training. He just uses the effect of the inconsistent flow of time here to integrate the power of 5 elements as soon as possible to complete the mastery of the 5 thunder magical powers. Sitting in the lotus position, he quietly felt the 5 elements spirit power continuously filled in his body, while looking at the secret realm where he had entered for the first time. It's somewhat similar to the pictures of the starry sky seen on Blue Star. The entire space is dim, only the high dome is hung with countless star-like points of light, glowing slightly. Let this empty secret realm have a little more excitement and a little loneliness. This space does not seem small. It shouldn't be a problem to accommodate more than 10,000 people in it. In this way, Li Fan stared at the space in front of him in a daze, as time passed quietly. At this time, less than an hour had passed from the outside world, and Li Fan's figure appeared at the entrance of the Tai Time secret realm. The whole person doesn't seem to have changed much from before entering the secret realm, but his temperament is more dusty. In front of the 22 demonic beasts in the open space, they only felt that the aura on Li Fan's body was more oppressive after they had come out, and they could feel a subtle sense of destruction after carefully exploring the past. This is because just after completing the 5 thunders, Li Fan can't smoothly control the increasingly terrifying thunder power in his body. After waiting for a while, he slowly breaks in, and his aura will be more restrained at that time, and he won't leak half of it. Let's go, Li Fan said to the demonic beasts in front of him. Li Fan flicked his fingers, and the charms with flashing auras were ejected by him. 23 Wanli shuttle charms stayed exactly on top of each demonic beasts. A white light flashed, Li Fan and others disappeared, teleporting to the southern Moon Valley. After arriving in the southern Moon Valley, Li Fan first took out the jade talisman that had been sent to the Kanglan region. The news that he had arrived in the southern Moon Valley region was sent out. Then, after identifying the direction based on the information given to him by Ji Ning before, he headed towards the Shuiyan Palace with more than 20 demonic beasts behind him. In front of Shuiyan Palace at this time, the 400,000 cultivator army is like a great wall of flesh and blood, closely guarding the front of Shuiyan Palace 100 miles away behind him. He tried his best to resist the millions of weird siege in the canyon. The endless roars and fighting noises were chaotic, resounding through the sky. Every second, there will be a lot of corpses on the ground, and it is not clear whether it is the cultivator or the weird. Anyway, in a flash, it will be overwhelmed by the weird and cultivator army, and stepped into mud. For 5 days, these weird troops were endlessly fighting tirelessly. As if not to kill all the cultivators in front of Shuiyan Palace, I would never give up. After a long battle, the alliance cultivator formed by the southern Moon Valley and the Kanglan region has long been exhausted, and the number of people is at a natural disadvantage compared with those weird ones. Over the past 5 days, 200,000 cultivators have fallen and turned into mud on the ground. With such a large casualty, these cultivators had already been beaten and their morale lost. But when they started fighting with these weirdness in front of them, they had long lost the possibility of escape. On the battlefield, a million weirdness blocked the water in this gorge long ago. Can't run out, but die faster. Under this situation, they can only fight desperately, although they may not survive the fight, but at least they can kill a few more of these disgusting weird ones. Not alone on Yellow Springs Road. In the battlefield, a big man who is like an iron tower holds a painted halberd, his body is powerful. Every time the painting halberd was swung, more than a dozen weird ones would be cut into 2 by him. Between 2 or 3 breaths, a vacuum would appear in front of him. He beheaded all the weirdness in front of him. But within a moment, this pure land was immediately filled with endless weirdness, and it became tightly integrated again. Inexhaustible to kill, inexhaustible. And this big man's naked body is covered with blood stains, and there is a hideous blood hole between his waist and abdomen, which almost tore his whole person to pieces. Even so, this big man did not retreat half a minute, and he continued to fight. Gradually, the swinging speed of the halberd in the hands of the tower-like man slowed down, and his body's strength gradually weakened. The weirdness in front of him seized the right time and screamed frantically. A series of treacherous attacks blasted towards the body and head of this big man. Seeing that the cultivator was about to die immediately, thousands of hot flames enveloped this area, melting all the weirdness around the big man. Old Zhao, follow behind me, hurry up and restore spirit power. Yeah, the big man was not hypocritical, took out a handful of pills from his waist storage bag and threw it into his mouth. He followed closely behind the old man who was just helping him out. Both of them are sect leaders of the Kanglan Domain 100 Sects Alliance. They are both outstanding in strength, and both are in the realm of innate. Spirit power continues to grow and recover very quickly. But even so, after repeated battles, whether it is spirit power in the body, or the spirit, it is almost reaching its limit. Besides, what about their disciples? Thinking of this, the naked man on the battlefield like god of war couldn't help but let out a sigh. Take a break for tea time. The spirit power in the big man recovered a bit. Holding the heavy painted halberd in his hand, he killed it again. The gorge in front of Shuiyan Palace Bailey turned into a huge meat grinder. Countless cultivators and weirdness continued to die in it. After half an hour, suddenly there was a strange roar that chilled the back from the valley in the distance. All the weirdness stopped immediately. A million weirdness retreated like a tide, and shrank at the other end of the valley. With numb and hollow eyes, the two-domain cultivator stared blankly at the sudden silence in front of him. The empty battlefield was still a bit uncomfortable. In the center of the battlefield, the powerful sect leaders of various sects looked at the weird retreat suddenly, with a hint of doubt in their eyebrows. What's wrong? Those weirdness will retreat. Before they could even think about it, the ground of the positive gorge began to vibrate rhythmically. There was a buzzing sound, like the sound of a drum beat. With the trembling of the gravel on the ground, a moving mountain appeared at the end of the valley, slowly approaching the battlefield. The cultivators on the other side of the valley stared at the tall black shadows in the distance. Gradually, the true face of this mountain-like figure appeared in front of the cultivator. At the same time, a cold and terrifying breath swept the entire valley, making all the cultivators in it shudder. What the hell is this? How can there be such a terrifying weirdness? What should we do? In the front of the battlefield, Ji Ning and the various forces sect leader around him looked at the huge figure in front of them, and felt an unparalleled sense of oppression. They looked at each other and thought, do we really have a chance in this battle? No one has an answer to this question. The towering horror figure crossed over the million weird at the end of the canyon without stopping. Continued to approach the two-domain cultivator army. At the same time, an arm with 8 muscles on his body violently clenched his fist and smashed it forward. Hurry up, quick. Seeing this monster's movements, Ji Ning screamed suddenly. The many cultivators with stupid eyes seemed to regain their senses, looking at the fierce fists that were getting closer and closer, calling up all the spirit power. Formed a large formation covering the entire valley. The skylight mapping illuminates this wide valley. Boom. The sound is like thunder, flying sand and rocks, thick smoke everywhere. The 40-meter wide fist collided with the big array. 68%. Chapter 180. Divine Might is Hell. The black tortoise formation formed by the hard work of 400,000 cultivators, the golden light is like a copper wall and an iron wall. And when Tobias's fist with huge muscle knots hit the copper wall and iron wall, the roar was deafening. The gray mist rolled back and the mountains crumbled. After the smoke cleared, the 400,000 cultivator all spewed a mouthful of blood. The big formation was covered with cracks in the spider web, but it was still barely maintained without breaking. Blocked. Everyone raised their heads, watching the great formation of all the cultivator power in the air at risk, and seeing the fierce fist in front slowly moving away from the black tortoise formation. Although the big formation was not broken, everyone was filled with despair. With just one blow, it wounded 400,000 cultivator and almost broke the black tortoise formation. Such an attack was just an understatement of an ordinary punch. If such an attack is repeated, can they stop it? No time for everyone to be in a daze. Tobias snorted coldly, and the 8 arms behind his back suddenly exerted strength, and his fists clenched and rushed forward. It's over. Seeing the 8 hill-like fists getting closer and closer, the cultivators gritted their teeth, and their hearts were filled with despair. We have no chance. There was a bang. The sound is clear and sweet. 8 fierce and incomparable fists slammed into the black tortoise formation on the verge of shattering. The breath of the 400,000 cultivator was sluggish, and his body was like broken porcelain, with blood all over his body flying upside down, and he didn't know his life or death. Among them, there are a large number of cultivators. The body cannot withstand such a fierce attack, and the body turns into blood mist in midair and explodes. Ji Ning and the others were bleeding from their 7 orifices, still supporting them, and the sect leaders who were crushed by the heavy fists and wind were retreating steadily. No, I can't retire. Everyone's body squeaked, and everyone's bones were all shattered. Finally, Tobias's unstoppable blow broke the last hope of the 2-domain cultivator and threw everyone into the air. Looking at the 400,000 cultivator who fell to the ground in front, Tobias's solemn and majestic voice came out, "Kill them all." Roar. Millions of weird screams shook the sky and rushed forward from the end of the valley. It's over. Warm blood ran through Ji Ning's eyes. He struggled to watch the weird roaring endlessly, and the distant Tobias, who stood quietly like a god or devil, fell to the ground. Suddenly, an arm supported him from behind. Ji Ning slowly turned his head, and a slightly thin figure appeared in front of him. How did you come here? Ji Ning's voice was hoarse, intermittently looking at the person in front of him, clutching the corner of the person's clothes, his expression angry. Li Fan looked at the stumps and bloody valleys around him, his eyes flushed, and his teeth clenched. Can't say a word. Everything is pale at this time. Although in order to solve the group of hidden monsters in the Kanglan domain, he kept searching and conquering demonic beasts for several purposes. Even because of his lack of strength, he took the risk of swallowing the Juku Qingling pill, which caused physical problems, and had to seek a breakthrough in the closed-door training of extreme fire. But looking at the dead mountain and blood sea in front of him, he couldn't say a word. The sudden rise of anger rushed to his brain. A 9 cauldrons Xiaohuandin appeared in his hand and fed into Ji Ning's mouth. As soon as medicine pill entered, Ji Ning quickly recovered from his terrifying injuries. Save people first, leave the rest to me. Li Fan took off a light blue storage bag around his waist and placed it next to Ji Ning. With the help of 9 cauldrons, who needed 60,000 merits, enough to survive and die, Ji Ning quickly recovered from his injuries. He looked at Li Fan and sighed, picked up the storage bag next to him, and opened it to see a full 29 cauldrons lying quietly in the storage bag. Among them, there are a large number of them that are of slightly lower grade but also medicine pill, who was enough to heal many of the injured disciples just now, took a deep breath. Ji Ning took the pale blue storage bag, only feeling that the light and fluttering bag in his hand weighed more than 1,000 catties. The value of so many high-grade medicine pills is not even clear to him. Anyway, it is estimated that the entire Palace of Purity has been sold, and it is estimated that I can't afford it. Ji Ning opened his mouth and wanted to stop Li Fan. But at this moment, Li Fan didn't want to delay any moment, put down the storage bag, got up and walked in the direction of millions of weird valleys. Seeing Li Fan's almost uncontrollable anger, Xiao Huang was silent and walked forward with the 20 demonic beasts beside him behind Li Fan. Li Fan looked at the millions of weirdness that were getting closer and closer, and his body was full of thunder. With each step he took, the 5-color thunder on his body became more and more intense. The uncontrollable thunder pulp came out through the body, seeming to turn the entire world into a thunder pond. Li Fan stood at the forefront of all the cultivators, facing the endless strange attacks alone. Suddenly the wind rose and the clouds gathered. The thunder light on his body pierced through the sky, as if the sky thunder shook the earth fire, and the thick black cloud that could not be removed covered the thousands of miles of heaven and earth around Shuiyan Palace into darkness. A heavy sense of oppression shrouded everyone and weird people in the valley. Yuqing Shiqing, the true talisman tells the alliance. Li Fan spoke suddenly, and a clear voice spread throughout the valley. Move the second qi, mix one into reality. 5 thunders and 5 thunders, anxious to meet Huang Ning. Encountered changes, roaring lightning fast. As Li Fan's fingers merged into sword fingers, the voice became more and more rapid, and a feeling that made everyone's scalp numb came from the bottom of everyone and the weird heart. The sound is coming, and the sound of the sun will be heard quickly. As the last curse was pronounced, Li Fan stood solemnly, single-fingered. As if in response to him, the sky like a horned dragon flickered and thunder roared. Disease. There was a loud shout, and thousands of thunder beams above the sky fell fiercely towards the ground. Cover all the weirdness. Not long ago, the 5 thunder supernatural powers just completed were used by Li Fan for the first time. The power of 5 elements gathered to master the 5 thunder supernatural powers finally reappeared in this space for the first time after an unknown number of years. The horned dragon-like thunder pillar that turned the valley into a sea of thunder, as if cheering, made a sound that seemed like excitement, and hit the heads of millions of weird violently. In the valley, Tobias stared closely at the thin, seemingly vulnerable human figure in the distance, until the thunder dragon above the sky pounced on it and looked away. Behind its dignified face, 10,000 newborn tentacles danced wildly with the wind, and 8 fists blasted out into the sky, colliding with the deep purple thunder dragon. The rumbling of thunder continued. Looking towards the valley from a distance, a dazzling purple light flows like a river, the mighty power is like a prison, and the sky is vast. Endless weird roars in the thunder sea, the hideous and terrifying body quickly melted in the thundering ocean, turning into wisps of black smoke. Ding! Congratulations to Sect leader for killing weird and gaining a 100-fold increase and gaining heavenly Tao merit 200. Ding! Congratulations to Sect leader for killing the weird and gaining a 100-fold increase and gaining heavenly Tao merit 500. Ding! Congratulations to Sect leader for killing weird and gaining a 100-fold increase and gaining heavenly Tao merit 200. Increase and gaining heavenly Tao merit 200. Increase and gaining heavenly Tao